the first Beatles messiest moment is George Harrison trying to buy a child in 1976. I'm like a McLennan truther. Ahoy! Welcome back to Girl Historians. I'm Carley.
I'm Blair.
And this is the comedy podcast where we talk about history and are also girls.
Yeah, and it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, we've been doing a series on the Beatles.
Yeah.
And this is not the penultimate. This is the final one, the finale. What's the penultimate
Of the
word?
Beatles?
Yeah. Like, what is penultimate means second to last, right?
Yeah.
So what's last?
Finale?
Really? Because penultimate feels so much more.
The ultimate?
Yeah, maybe.
The ultimate episode.
It's the final one.
Of the Beatles. And then we have one more episode in summer school.
And then we're getting back to class, bitch.
And then we're getting back to class.
In our world, school starts firmly in October.
It does. It starts firmly in October. And it's going to be a year of doing Girl Historians.
Which is fucking crazy.
That's
we should do
crazy.
we should do something.
Yeah, what should we do?
We could do a live show or
That'd
something.
be fun. I think we should do another live show.
Definitely.
I don't know when or where or how, but I definitely want to do that.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in a live show and you're in Toronto, or if there's somewhere specific you want us to tour to,
one place. We'll go to one place.
We'll go to one place.
Yeah.
And it's got to be on the Canadian border. Or around.
Or Porter flies directly there.
Porter flies directly there.
We can do New York. We
Yeah.
can do Chicago.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And
That's
that's
it.
That's it. That's literally it. Yeah, crazy we've been doing this for a year.
It's insane.
I was thinking, we weren't always called Girl Historians, and I've completely wiped that from my memory.
I was thinking about this literally last night because I've been listening to Ego Nwodom's new podcast where she didn't have a dad growing up and she's interviewing all these male comedians about being like, will you be my dad kind of thing, or we're talking about relationships with dads. It's interesting. Beautiful. But the first couple of episodes, even though they were funny because she's a star, not even in the making, just period, a star. They're not great, and I was like, maybe she's just a really good comedian. You know, she's like my Lisa from Temecula is one of my favorite SNL sketches in the last 10 years, maybe like a long time. It's one of my favorites. But the podcast episodes are fine, and she's recently gotten really good, and I was like, oh yeah, it takes a minute. And I was like, I remember and our first episodes are still, I feel good, but then you can feel when we hit our stride. And even in summer school, it feels like we've redefined the tone of the podcast. This is not interesting for people that aren't mentally ill, but you know what I mean? You can feel the tone has been really solidified in summer school. Yeah.
Well, we definitely did. It's been an interesting summer for us with grow. We've had very specific growing pains, but also strides in terms of but growth. That's the thing where it's sometimes we were doing it one way, we kind of took ownership back a little bit in a way and said, this is what we'd like to do. And now I'm just so excited to get back to a classic Girl Historians season of just hyper fixation.
Just 8 episodes on one thing, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck. If you're not feeling it, sorry.
See you in 10 months.
Yeah, see you in a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
10 months is crazy.
No.
But yeah, pretty excited. Yeah, we should make a cake.
Ooh, I love that.
We should make a cake and then we'll mail it to all the listeners.
Just in little envelopes.
Yeah, just
fucking moldy, smushed cake.
Everyone will get a bomb warning that someone's mailed a bomb.
They're this simply has to be a bomb.
Yeah, it's secreting.
There's literally no other explanation for this.
Explanation for an envelope that looks like this. This is horrifying.
Yes.
Yeah. How's your week been, girl?
Good. I have to tell you, you know how sometimes you have to it's crazy because I think for some people who record podcasts together, they the one time they talk is when they record the podcast.
Yeah.
We've actually somehow gone above and beyond that and still truly talk every single day.
It's kind of crazy.
There are very few people that I love to hang out with, but when you're in, you're in, and I can't get sick. I can't get sick of you. Yeah. I feel you have to be abusive to me for me to be we need a break. I think we need a break. Even when we went to Salem, it wasn't ugh. I need a break now. It was fine.
Yay.
So, but that means because we record the podcast, like I have to like, if there's something I specifically want to bring up on the podcast, I have to just like omit it from conversation.
Yeah, you just have to sit on it.
Yes. And I did text you about this while it was happening.
Yeah.
But now I can tell you the story.
I was at the park when you texted me, so I didn't see it right away.
And I kept texting you. I was like, emergency, Blair, emergency. I was
eating a scone in the park.
Blair, pick up. You have to. I was Maisie Peters was in like a cafe bookstore that I was in.
Oh, insane. Middle of the day too, like on
middle
a weekday.
of the day. So this was on Monday. Mm-hmm. I was on the social because I think somebody got sick. They have a lot of people that get sick. So I think everyone else on their like rotating cast has kids, so they just get way sicker than I ever would. Because I'm like, I feel like I'm breathing people's air in comedy bars around.
But it's different with a kid. Like
little
the
kids
brings
the
so
disease
sick.
home. Yeah, they have like hand, foot, and mouth disease.
Yeah,
like
it's like a new thing.
It's a full new disease.
They have chickenpox.
Exactly.
It's
again,
like what? Yeah,
antibiotic resistant chickenpox.
Oh my god, there's someone I know. Someone in the comedy community had chickenpox recently and posted about it on Instagram. Kate Stollerly had chickenpox. I actually don't even mind Kate Stollerly, if you're listening to this. I think it's chill. It's honestly kind of hardcore that they had chickenpox.
Yeah.
It's just like a crazy thing to see, like a 27-year-old
I'm vaccinated against chickenpox. We've talked about this, right?
I had chickenpox as a little kid.
Yes.
And there's a picture of me in a limo with chickenpox, which I've never understood. I've never understood.
There's no way to understand that. Like, there's not like... That doesn't get revealed.
It was sort of like, why was I let into the limo with chickenpox? And why was there a limo?
Levels
I'm
of
in my
questions.
pajamas in
levels
the limo.
Of questions.
I don't understand.
Beautiful. I would love to see this photo.
I'll look for it.
Thank you. But yeah, so I was doing the social, and then afterwards I was like, I'm gonna go to Flying Books at Neverland, if you guys know it. So there's Flying Books, which has a location on College Street. Mm-hmm. They're a publisher and a bookstore. They like publish Happy Hour. I'm fucking obsessed with them. I love them.
They're cool.
They're so sick.
They're very suave.
Very, very like.
They're very like. Do you like to read? Do you really like to read?
Like the selection is bitchin' at those stores.
Fucking books.
Oh, we have fucking books. Like it's the kind of place that you would go in and be like, can I buy like Thursday Murder Club? And they'd be like, no. No, we don't have that.
No, we don't have that.
I fucking love it.
And that's not for you.
You don't want that.
You don't want that.
And I'm like, I do. And they're like, no, you don't. You
think you want that?
But you don't.
What you want
and it's like baby bangs.
Yeah.
Like it's
what you want is this new Canadian novel.
It's literally that.
That was written while only talking to penguins in the Arctic.
Yeah. And it's actually a play on a classic scroll.
It's a scroll.
It's actually a scroll.
It was written entirely with quills and then dictated to a computer via a toddler.
Yeah, and you're like, I actually do just want to read a murder mystery, though. And they're like, absolutely
no.
But they have a new location on Queen Street, and it's like half cafe, half bookstore, and I'm fucking obsessed. If I lived closer to that, like I truly would be there every day.
It's an excellent idea in a weird location, to be honest. It's kind of
hard.
It's a weird location.
It's a weird location, I think, for us. Like if I was still at TMU, go Towers. By the way,
that's crazy. I've heard this before, but that is a team named Towers.
It's not their real one. It's something else fucking stupid. It's like the blue and gold. Like it's it's like a hawk.
I thought it was the Rams.
It was the Rams, but for some reason they changed it when they had renamed the university. So I used to go to Ryerson University. And the university name changed during the pandemic because Egerton Ryerson, the guy they named the university after, invented residential schools, which are like truly the most horrific thing in Canada imaginable.
It's not like great.
Truly like these horrific schools they sent Indigenous people to like Europeanize them, but really it was just like fully murder and abuse and all these things. Horrific stuff.
Not great.
So they renamed the university, which fair.
Mm-hmm.
Do
I get
that.
it.
And like, maybe not like the guy who created the worst thing in the world, like fair.
Yeah.
But the mascot was a ram and his name was Eggy. So I was like, oh, they'll just give him a new name. Like they'll just have to give him a new name.
Eggy.
I know. Named after a man who is truly evil incarnate, being like, this is Hitler the lamb, by the way. But they changed the whole mascot, and one of the options was the Towers, because it's like it got changed to Toronto Metropolitan University.
And Toronto has towers.
Yeah, but when they were like, maybe we'll be the Towers, everyone was like twin? Like twin
This is
towers?
where I thought. It was like, what if there's twins who want to be basketball players? And then they're the Twin Towers.
Exactly.
It's where my mind went. What if? What if? Is it so hard to fucking imagine?
It's not. It's not.
No.
So it's like a very much just like an inside joke with myself where if somebody brings up like TMU, I'm like, go Towers, by the way.
Go Towers.
It's just for me. Like, it's kind of just for me.
That's
all
awesome.
that's to say is if I was going to TMU,
you'd be at Flying Books in Neverland all the time. Yeah.
But I was at the social and I finished early. I was like, I'm going to go there. I'm going to write. So I'm there. And then these two girls are sitting up front. I'm going to tell you the story front to back because there's levels.
I'm excited.
There's levels to story. So first of all, I go to Neverland.
I'm
the
sat.
bookseller, as I'm walking in, is filming a TikTok in the front window. So I just do a lap around the block.
Iconic.
Because I'm like, I can't do this to him.
Yeah. No. I'm going to ruin his damn day.
This is what I'm saying as a fellow content creator.
Yeah.
Nothing truly tanks your mood more than being like perceived in that way.
Also, if he's a content creator, he probably for sure is familiar with your content.
But he's not, because
I
talked to him later. We're going to get into this.
Oh, okay.
This is what I'm saying, which I'm like,
which is crazy.
Do you create content?
Do you even create content?
If you don't know who I am.
On Carley on YouTube.
This is what I'm saying.
Kill yourself.
So I do a lap, I come back, and then I walk in.
Do a lappa?
Yes, I do a lappa. Do a little dance that she does.
Do a lappa.
And then I go inside and, I get my little tea and I'm writing whatever.
Yeah.
And there's this one girl who's in, like, and she's in, and I remember I looked at her because I'm like, she's in a mini skirt, and I'm like, okay,
you're
not kind of the person that usually is here, because she's giving like Colleen Hoover, and not derogatory, just a different kind of reader.
No,
and
just
I was
giving
like,
Colleen Hoover.
But maybe I'm always like very nosy about people's book choices. So when she's looking around, I'm like, what are you gonna pick, girl?
Yeah.
Because here's one thing about me, I'm truly so up in other people's business. It's actually disgusting. Like,
oh no, I'm the
same.
And not
people I know, like strangers. I'm always eavesdropping. I'm always staring. I'm always secretly listening. Like, I'm engaged in the lives of strangers in a big way. And then these two other girls from the front go up to him. These people are all like, I would say between like 20, they're like mid 20s.
Okay.
Let's say.
Classic.
And they're talking to this girl and they're like, oh, I'm going to change her name because I remember her name, but you're Mary, let's say.
Yeah.
We're going to shoot content. Like, you're here to shoot content with us, right? So I'm like, okay, work. Like, they're shooting content here. What's going on?
Yeah.
Because there's lots of media places around there. So I'm like, maybe this is for like CBC Books or whatever. Like,
yeah.
I'm just addicted to not writing, and I'd rather be just pretending to write and paying attention to the lives of others.
For sure.
And she's like,
and that's a big part of the writing process.
This is exactly it. I'm actually an observer. And they're talking whatever, and it's the day before the new Sally Rooney book comes out, obviously. So they're like talking about it. Intermezzo. And they're talking about it, and one of the girls is like, "Oh, I just don't have time to read. I feel like if you work in music, you don't have time to read." Which is, let's say
not a
thing.
No, what is that?
If you are in university, I will accept that because you're reading a lot already.
Yes.
If you're a surgeon of any kind, I will accept that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, bitch, no, you can.
Like, what are you doing playing the guitar?
If you have time to watch anything on your phone, if you have time to watch a movie, like,
you have time to read a book.
You have time to read a book. And that's not to say you should read a book.
You don't have to read a whole book even. You could just read chapter by chapter.
Not everyone needs to read. But I'm like, don't use an excuse. And also don't do a sweeping generalization about the whole music industry.
Also, I feel like musicians are famously usually pretty big readers because of the intertextuality of it all.
Literally.
What are we doing?
Already I'm like,
ugh,
rolling my damn eyes. And then they talk to this, to Mary, the book talker, let's say.
Okay.
And they're like, do you like Sally Rooney? And she was like, oh, I couldn't get into it because there's no quotation marks, which is tough for me. I'm like seething, but I can't say anything because there's no reason for me to be listening to this conversation.
Yeah. But you're like, it's actually crazy what you said about the quotation marks.
You actually don't know how ignorant you actually fucking sound. And then they kind of like look to the bookseller for support.
Yeah,
let's say, and he's like, I actually like that. Like, I think like it looks so good. Whenever I see quotation marks on a page, I do actually like. Now I'm like, it's actually kind of ugly.
Yeah,
which I agree with.
It's gross.
And I was like, he's giving you fucking nothing.
Yeah, no, he's ew.
Because a man who reads can sometimes be menace to society.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he's ally shipping right now with Sally Rooney, right? So then I was like talking to him because again, I'm doing literally anything in my entire power to not write one page of this novel that I've chosen to write, let's say.
Yeah.
I've come here to do that.
No, but it's more important for you to listen.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, he's reading the intermezzo arc. I'm like, how is it? Like, is it a good book? I'm so excited. Blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
And then I'm like, okay, time to read. And they're like, she's coming. They're talking, and then I'm listening again. And the girls were all just like talking. They're like looking around being like, oh, we can shoot here, whatever. This bookstore, cute as fuck. Like if you're shooting book content, I'm like, absolutely.
It's adorable.
But usually if you're shooting content, it's not like already a 3-person team. So I was confused.
Yeah.
And they're waiting for someone to arrive.
It's also tiny. It's so small and it's got this huge metal table in the middle of it.
Yes, literally.
Because last time I was there, I was with you.
Yeah.
And this guy tried to walk through the table and got really mad that he couldn't walk through the table, which is one of the wildest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's like, so it's actually a massive metal table.
Yeah, so it's actually a massive metal table.
So just open your eyes.
Yeah, I'm like, what? Go around the table. Don't just kind of like get mad you can't walk through it.
Literally. So pretty simple.
Tangent, but let's continue.
But yes, it's really small. And they're like, okay, she's coming. And we can figure out afterwards which of this is like too personal to Maisie Peters making cut. But they're like, okay, she'll be here in like 5 minutes. Just, you can talk about anything. Don't talk about the Eras tour.
Oh no.
I was like, I didn't know it was Maisie Peters at this point.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, maybe it's like I thought it was gonna be like a local Toronto musician who I would never know who they are because I'm not in the music community that way.
Hates the Eras tour.
This is what I was thinking, or it's like the Eras tour has like made it hard for smaller musicians to tour or something. I don't know. I was like, there's something I don't know.
So many
about.
layers.
Yeah. And then the book talker's like, why? And they're like, oh, just haters who love to see a girl having fun. And I was like, what?
Okay. Sure.
Because if you don't know, Maisie Peters obviously gotten a lot of hate for posting a video of her singing.
Oh, hey, it's been forever.
You wanna get a drink like together? I'm kind of busy, right? I'm with Taylor tonight. Oh shit! I want to play a song. And she does. And I'm talking about this, and the reason I texted Blair is because like we are Maisie Peters fans.
I love Maisie Peters.
I love top Spotify artist probably this year. One of them.
You are the biggest Maisie Peters
fan
that I know.
Which is also crazy because this story is, spoiler alert, going to end with me literally not saying a single word to her.
Good.
Yeah. But she does sound kind of bad in that video, and it is, I think, baller to post that. Nobody sounds good in a stadium.
No.
She's also, that's a part of the song she's talking in. All that to be said, it also is funny because she does sound.
And she's also committed to keeping it up.
This is what I'm saying. It's got 22.4 million views on her.
That's crazy.
And it's up today.
The thing that's rough, and I'll just speak on this quickly so you can continue your story, but the thing that's rough about that is she doesn't have a ton of defense because she actually isn't the best singer.
And she doesn't have to be, but it's not like you can just then post like a,
yeah, it's not like she can clap back with amazing vocals. Like anytime someone goes after like Sabrina Carpenter for sounding ridiculous, she's like, oh, I'm actually an amazing singer.
Yeah.
Whereas like Maisie Peters is just going to be like, she sounds good, but she's not.
She's a writer. You know what I mean?
She's a writer. She's like a pop vocalist. So it's like, if you go to her page, the next one is her doing a cover of Mr. Brightside that just sounds like flat. Like it's not tough. It's not bad, but it's like, oh girl,
it's hard to come out of that.
Maybe the vocals aren't the thing.
So all that's to say is, I would love to get to the level of fame in which I can have somebody kind of pre-curse any conversation I'm at.
Yeah.
To be like, don't mention to Carley these things.
I'm gonna start doing that at comedy shows.
Don't talk to Carley about the Eras tour.
Don't talk to Carley about the Eras tour. She's gonna be mad. It's making it really hard for her.
It's because of haters.
To write her book.
It's because of haters.
It's because of haters.
Yes.
Because of the haters who see a girl having fun.
So now I'm actually writing. And then Maisie Peters walks into the store, and she's got like, you know, we talked about hair theory of like celebrities just like how identifiable hair. It's like she's got like so much platinum blonde hair, iconic. You know what I mean? So she walks in and I'm like, oh my God. Like, and also like, it's the perfect instance of like, there's a lot of more famous people that could have walked in that I wouldn't care about.
Yeah.
Any Raptor besides maybe Scotty Barnes, I'd be like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
And I don't really care about Scotty Barnes being like, I need to get a picture for Reese. Like, it's not like I'm like, there's a lot of people who are more famous that I wouldn't care about, but I'm like, Maisie Peters is uniquely famous to you.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm like, what? And then I was like looking up, and she was like doing a show that night. So she was there, whatever. I, to this day, could not tell you why they were shooting book content in Flying Books at Neverland.
Yeah.
But she was doing a fall book recommendation with this book talker.
That's really interesting.
She recommended Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Don't know why the fuck this was content to be shot. It makes no sense to me. So this is happening, and like girls will like come in off the street because they'll see her and be like very, very starstruck. You know what I mean? Whatever. And I was like, wow. But I was like, I'm not going to say anything because like it's almost weirder to me, even though this is not true. But like the fact that I was in the bookstore before, is like weirder.
Yeah, because now you're kind of stuck.
Yeah,
like what are you gonna do? Leave?
This is what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, she's in the middle of something, so it's like unless I gotta wait until like she is leaving to say something, Also, like, it'd be hard. Like, there's no way I could do it that wouldn't offend her, where I'd be like, I'm actually a really big fan of yours.
Yeah.
But what I mean by that is, like, a lot of her fans are younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I was in the bookstore before you came in. Like, isn't that kind of fucking crazy?
Yeah, what are you doing?
But I am, like, again, you said it. Like, I am a massive fan. I love her. But, like, also, because I'm 25, like, when you're older, the people that you are fans of, you're also, like, you kind of like make fun of them, if that makes sense.
For sure.
So I'm like, I'm not going to be giving you what I want. Also, everyone's acting psychotic towards her because she's kind of famous now.
That's rough.
Like, every person's coming off the street being like, oh my God, I love you, or whatever.
It's like, do you?
Or it's like people who are like having a tea here, like looking and being like,
who the fuck is that? Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's like people working from Universal Music Canada or whatever being like, oh my God, this place is so cute, right?
Oh my God,
like,
love this place.
Nobody's acting normal to her.
No.
And also, like, I'm just not going to get, like, it's one thing if she comes in alone, I probably would have been like, oh, I love your music, and then go back to whatever. But it's like a whole thing.
Yes.
And my brain is poisoned. So because there's 2 booksellers there, I'm like, well, they have to know I'm actually kind of aligned with them.
Yes. You have to be on the bookseller side.
This is what I'm saying. And it's not like they were having a bad time, but I was like, I'm actually aligned with them.
Yeah, I'm actually aligned with them because I was here before.
Exactly.
No,
and like, we were talking about intermezzo. So like... and I actually already have it pre-ordered. So
I actually kind of already pre-ordered the book, so whatever.
I'm basically a bookseller.
Yeah.
So this happens, they do the content, whatever. Then she goes up to the cash because she's like buying the books for the TikToker or whatever, which is class act.
Class.
Yeah.
Class.
She was very sweet. Like there was no part of it that I was like, she's acting fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Yet. There's one thing that I do, but this is my own thing. And I'm like slowly writing sentence by sentence because they've been in there for like 50 minutes at this point, and I'm like
50?
Yes, I'm like I have to start writing because like
50 minutes is crazy.
Yeah, like I've just been so distracted. Even when like nothing's happening, you're just kind of like there's a lot of people coming in. I feel like I don't know if it was her father, but like there was an older man with them as well. Like it's an entourage. It's what famous people do.
Yeah,
and like would love to be in an entourage state of my life, but I'm not.
I should be in an entourage. I think that's all the time.
Like, if I got to the point where I was like, if I could just bring 8 people with me, like, I would.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, because why not?
No judgment. So she's going to leave, and then she's like, oh, like, she sees that the bookseller he's reading Intermezzo, the arc, and she's like, can I buy the new Sally Rooney? And she is a big reader. As we know. Like, she is actually legitimately a massive reader.
Despite being in music.
Exactly. She has no time.
She finds time to read.
She finds time
to read despite also playing guitar.
Exactly. And that's actually really, really hard. She's actually a warrior
She's really a warrior.
And he's like, oh, it's really, really good. It's like one of her best. You can also figure out fully who this is. If you go on the Flying Books Instagram, there's one guy. But this paints him in a really good light. Because I'm about to come to his defense as if people were attacking this bookseller. But and she's like, can I just like have it though? Like, can I buy it? And he's like, no, because tomorrow is the day like it's coming out.
Yeah.
And she's like I can't like have it. Like I can't like buy it. You can't just like give it to me. Like you can just give it to me. And he's like, no.
No, lose his job.
This is the thing. The embargo, Maisie.
Yeah,
what?
Like,
if you're like I don't know if it's like high-ranking bookseller, but it's like if you're not like assistant customer relations at Indigo, if you're like a bookseller, even if you're a manager at Indigo, like you lose access to new releases if you sell like new releases early.
Yeah, my sister won't even lend me like her arcs from 2 years ago.
Yeah, like because they're serialized too. So like if they appear somewhere, they can like trace them back to where they were sold, and they fucking will, especially with Sally Rooney.
Yeah. Don't be weird.
Yeah. So then he was like, oh, would you mind like actually if we just film like a quick like little TikTok or whatever? Yeah, whatever.
Okay. Sure.
And he's like, by the way, I'm the entire time pretending to write and just listening to this.
You look over your keyboard, it's just like
literally
typing like faster and faster.
It's like the end of Saltburn. You know, the end of Saltburn when he's just like typing fucking nothing. That was me.
Oh my God, I forgot about that part of Saltburn. That was awesome. It's just like, girl, your fingers are moving. Like, you do not know how to touch type. Why are you pretending? Some like poor like student beside you just being like, oh what my the fuck? God.
So it's like, what's your favorite Sally Rooney? And she's like, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, not for long. And like, to promo the book or whatever. Every job is a TikToker now, by the way, too.
Yeah.
If you want to sell books, you also have to make TikTok content, I guess. Sorry.
And that's just part of life.
That's just life.
That's just life.
That's just whatever state of capitalism we're in now. Oh, you want to make ice cream?
Better be a TikToker.
Download CapCut.
Better get CapCut. No, even like my friend, whom I love, made a video recently that was like an announcement video and left like a giant pause at the beginning. And I was so close to messaging her and being like, hey,
I love the millennial pause.
Do you want me to re-edit that vid for you? Like,
let me get in
I'll
there.
do it. I'll pop it into Premiere. I'll get it real nice for you.
Real quick.
Just saying that I didn't want to be fully an asshole, but I was like, your engagement's low for a reason.
Okay.
Your engagement's low for a reason, babe.
Because those first 3 seconds, they're actually crucial.
The first 3 seconds, you need to be like cutting some fruit or doing your makeup.
And I watched this TikTok afterwards and masterful.
Yeah.
It like starts with him like, like setting the camera up. So it's like kind of like lo-fi, but it's like the camera movement. I was like, wait, this is actually fucking crazy.
I'm right here for it.
Bookseller at Flying Books, a better content creator than I am. Like,
can you send it to me?
Yeah, I will. I'll show you after.
I would love to be a lifestyle content creator. I feel like I missed the boat on that so hard.
I think you could do it.
But like, what's my lifestyle?
Well, that's the bigger problem.
No one wants to see this.
Well, this is the problem, yes. So that all happens. And then so he's like, not for long, buy this book now. And then she's like, give it to me. Kind of like joking. Oh, I said his name, but that's fine.
It's okay. Honestly, I feel like we're standing him, if anything.
No, this is what I'm saying. Like, I actively stan him.
Yeah.
So all that's to say, we are standing him. She's like, give it to me. He's like, I can't.
Yeah.
And then she like takes like a picture of her like reaching her hand towards it or whatever and puts it on her Instagram story or whatever. Like, bitch wants this fucking book.
Yeah, she's thirsting.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is really uncomfortable.
Honestly, I get it too. I told myself I wasn't going to buy it for 2 weeks because I have all the other books, and today I was like, I might go buy it.
So I'm going to go buy it.
I think I'm actually that's probably my evening
the cover
activity.
Is fucking gorgeous.
I know,
I'm
it's so beautiful.
Happy Canada bought the UK cover and not the US cover.
Okay, but here's my thing though. I'm glad we got the UK cover, but my friend Sarah, who works at Faber Books in the UK, shout out Sarah if you're listening to this.
My dream job,
my
dream woman.
I miss her so much. Cry missing her every day. If you're listening to this, Sarah, sorry for being weird. But literally she posted the cover of it and I was like, it just looks better in the UK. There's still something about it. It looks better in the UK.
Well, yeah, for sure.
What's up with that?
But at least we're not, it's not yellow and gray.
Yeah.
Who fucking made that choice?
No, yellow and gray is a horrible color combination.
Blue
and white.
Blue and white, beautiful.
Blue and white, classic. Classical giving beautiful blue and white plate.
So Maisie Peters leaves. Okay.
Yes.
And again, I'm eavesdropping. My keyboard fucking.
How long have you been at this cafe? Like 5 hours.
I know.
You're like starving, you're dehydrated. You're like, I gotta know.
She's just typing away as I die.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing the conversation between the two booksellers. Mm-hmm. And like maybe I should stop listening because they're not public people.
No. But you're already here.
But I'm in on the lore and they were talking loudly.
No, they want to be heard.
Okay.
They're content creators.
So I'm sorry, but I was listening. And he's like, she just messaged me on Instagram. I don't know if she messaged the Instagram account.
Yeah.
Or him.
Yeah.
And was like, here are 2 tickets to my show tonight. Come to my show and bring the Sally Rooney book. And he's like, and he was saying out loud, he was like, you have to buy it. Like, you have to buy it. Like, I can't.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Here are 2 tickets to my show. Bring the Sally
crazy.
Dude, the chokehold that Sally Rooney has on these women.
And again, big Maisie Peters fan, love the content. I mean, if you got tickets to the Eras tour, I think that would be an appropriate trade for almost losing your job.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Maisie Peters show is like...
I'm not sure. And it can't be easy to get a job at Flying Books.
No,
that's got to be a hot commodity of a job.
Well, he had told me when we were talking about the Sally Rooney book that he like used to be a bookseller in England. Mm-hmm. So like
he came in with experience.
This is what I'm saying, and like experience that Canadians inherently just respect anything that happens in the UK.
We
better
do.
Than
We're
anywhere.
Salivating over just like me
Anglophiles.
Being like, Sarah's book is prettier because it's in the UK.
Because
it's in the UK.
Yeah,
so our book looks better actually.
Yeah,
because in England,
literally.
Canadians,
Oh my god. So that was the Maisie Peters story, but I had to tell you
that was such a saga.
It was truly it was insane.
Wow.
And I was just texting you and texting Reese because I was like, literally no one else even knows who she is. But I like but it's like such a big deal to me, at least, that I was like, I can't just be like, crazy. Because you see a lot of famous people in Toronto, but I'm like, this is a uniquely famous person to me.
Well, I feel like because like you live like living in a city where famous people are just around, when you do see someone who you really like particularly admire, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Whereas like most people, I don't know, pretty unfazed.
What we're doing today is we're unpacking the Beatles' messiest moments.
Yes. How many is it? Top 5?
I think it's top 5.
Obsessed.
Let me read. It's not a lot. It's
Beatles
1, 2,
messiest.
3, 4,
Messiest moments.
5. It's 6 moments.
6 messiest moments of the Beatles.
Yes.
I can't wait because they're messy.
Blair, I knew they were messy.
They're messy.
The level to which they're messy. And like I was telling Ray some of these things and he was like, where were these like confirmed? And I was like, bro, in John Lennon's official biography.
No, this is what's crazy is that they fully just like full chest admit to doing these things.
Yes, like these things are just proven, but they're fucking crazy. They're nuts. And then people are like, John Lennon's straight, by the way. Like, and I'm like, okay, well, in his official biography, he talks about getting jacked off by Brian Epstein, which we'll get to.
No, this is the thing. Like, and
everyone's
like,
they had like fucking chest.
They had an interesting relationship. It's like they were hooking up.
Yes,
they were hooking up.
And I'm not saying that for everything, because we are going to get into a theory. We're obviously going to talk about MacLennan, which is of course the ship of.
I believe it. Can I just say, I've become a MacLennan believer.
Researching this last night, I was like, oh, okay.
No, 100%. No, 100%.
But I do think, upon doing my research, I'm like, Paul still is like giving straight to me in a more like, or like at least compulsive heterosexuality.
Yes, for sure.
But like reading about him, like John is just fully gay. Like, not gay, he's bi.
Yeah, no, he's bisexual.
And Yoko's like, he's bi.
Yeah. No, do you think that Yoko would get with a straight man?
No, there's like a quote that we don't have in this, but I was reading about where she was like, John one time said to me like, cause she said, I think you're a F slur. You know how you speak to your beloved.
You know how you talk to your beloved.
Yeah. And he's like, I think I am because you look like a bloke in drag. You know how you also speak to your beloved.
You know, you speak to the people you love and care about.
The most.
But you know what? Honestly, I could see in a type of relationship that being a very loving conversation. But it'd be like, well, of course I'm gay. You look like a fucking man.
Yeah.
Freak.
And that's love.
Wah,
wah, wah, wah, wah.
Well, it's making out noises, if you were wondering.
So we're going to go through these now. Yeah. We have a lot to cover. It's not like a lot, but it was more. I thought this would just be like little stuff. And then once I took an edible before writing this. And then like
huge.
Hyper fixed. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where I think I like sat in one place for like 2.5 hours.
Iconic.
And just straight mainline Beatles circle jerk Reddit.
I miss that about doing weed, dude.
It really is beautiful.
Beatles circle jerk Reddit is iconic also.
Yeah, I kind of love it in there.
No, it's really fun.
It's actually a surprisingly nice environment. I was expecting it to be mainly people being like, I don't know, I just care about the music. No. And it's like, no, I obviously care about the music, but like, I can also care about the drama.
Yeah.
Like, two things can be true.
No, it's a bunch of messy bitches.
Yes.
Honestly, like Beatles Reddit, just a bunch
messy.
of messy people.
Yes.
It's fun. It's a good time.
But it's messy.
It's messy as fuck.
Okay. So these are in no particular order also. These are just all the top messiest moments. Okay. But I'm not ranking them from least messy to most messy because I think that that's something that can actually be so personal to you.
At the end, we have to pick which we think is the messiest.
Okay, that's fun. That's fun. So the first Beatles messiest moment is George Harrison trying to buy a child in 1976.
No. Why? Why? Why?
Okay.
From who?
Well, from cream drummer to drummer Ginger Baker.
I was expecting anyone else but the drummer from Cream. What the fuck?
Yeah, okay, let me get into this. So George was attending a party at Eric Clapton's Surrey mansion in 1976.
Okay.
So Beatles have been broken up for 6 years now?
And doing just a ton of cocaine.
Yes, and we'll get into that later, but Patty Boyd said that cocaine fundamentally changed his personality.
Yeah. Shocker.
Would make somebody offer to buy a child. So he's playing a game of pool and they're like betting things on the game of pool. Yeah. And George makes a joke being like, oh, the prize for this game of pool should be Nettie Baker, who is the 15-year-old daughter of Cream drummer Ginger Baker. This came out in Nettie Baker's biography. So also she was there. You know when you have a party at Eric Clapton's mansion, you bring your 15-year-old daughter to just the who's who of fucking teenagers.
Yeah.
Just anybody who's ever fucked a teenager has been there.
Oh my God.
So that's like a joke. And he but then later in the night he made another joke, but like kind of kept making the joke. Like lot. To Ginger Baker being like he would pay £2,000 for Nettie Baker just to have this 15-year-old child.
No.
But he was like, no. So one of the quotes that I pulled from her biography is she says, after asking my age, George Harrison decided I should be the first prize in a game of pool. Later that evening, he offered to pay my dad £2,000 for me, and I nearly choked. I did the conversion on this. And this is approximately 32,000 Canadian dollars.
Jesus.
Or 24,000 American dollars.
This is like One Direction fan fiction.
Literally. My dad sold me to George Harrison.
But also my dad's the drummer of Cream.
By the way,
if you were wondering.
Yeah. So, she says in this like biography being like, it's like, it's just like just a kind of emblematic of like how men like talked about teenagers then, but it was a joke.
It's like, okay, it's still crazy.
It's a crazy joke.
No, this is like anytime you read anything that's written by like someone who was a 15-year-old girl this time, it was just like, well, all the men were good fun. And it's
that's
like,
just the way it is. And you're like, what? This is all of Pamela DeBar's fucking
literally.
We've talked about like
going back to Pamela DeBar.
But literally, it's like the intro to that is like, this was the first book where girls were fucking talking about sex.
Yeah.
And all the girls wanted to be her and they hate her because she was so fucking sexy. And then you read it and she's like, I hope he likes me because she's fucking 15.
She's like, I love him now.
I'm like, you guys all just projected those feelings onto this child.
It's crazy.
And if you look up a picture of Nettie Baker at this time, just serving 15. Like she's not. It's not even like.
It's hard not to look 15.
This is what I'm saying, and she's not doing it.
No,
she's looking 15.
She's looking 15.
So that's the beginning. That's just like one that was fucking crazy that we had to start with.
That's crazy.
The other ones I have a bit more information on because there's like there's backstory. That one was just a rogue offering to buy a child.
That's crazy.
You know how you are. Okay, stop.
And we've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all been at a party at our coked up friend's mansion and offered to buy a child.
Yeah, look, it was the 60s. It was the 70s.
It was the 70s, 60s, 80s, 90s. Whatever, guys.
Stop.
One day cocaine won't exist and people will stop doing crazy shit. But until
that day happens. Number 2, Beatles Messiest. Oh my God. Number 2,
Beatles Bussiest Bus.
Yeah. John Lennon's got a boy pussy.
Ew. So gross.
Number 2, Beatles' messiest moment, when George slept with Ringo's wife.
Oh my God.
Do we know this?
I've heard of this, but I don't. Okay, George is maybe a fucking menace.
Yeah, when I was doing this, I was like, George is so messy. And George is messy, but then the rest basically involved John, and John is messy.
Yeah, John is messy but open about it, whereas I feel like everyone's like, George just wants to play guitar in a field.
George is stealth messy.
Yeah, he's stealth.
He's like, I just like to meditate. And you're like, okay, but you also have gone on record saying you had hundreds of affairs.
Yeah, like, what do you...
So what's the truth?
So what's the truth, George?
Yes.
You're giving mess.
Yes. Yes. And that's why those two, I feel like those two were both giving messy bitches.
Yes.
And you need the Ringo and Paul to kind of even out the messiness because those two are not perfect, but they're not messy.
You always need 2 messy bitches in any given situation.
Definitely.
Because if you just have one messy bitch, it's too much. Like,
because everyone's like, you're being messy.
Yeah, everyone's like, you're being messy.
But if you have a friend that's also messy, then the 2 messy bitches can go off and be messy together.
We're like, we're messy together.
Yeah. Also, if you can hear stuff in the background, they're filling a hole. And
it's actually, guys, there's the biggest hole outside of my apartment. There's the biggest hole you've ever seen.
In the ground.
Unless you've been to the Grand Canyon, I can't think of a bigger hole.
Yeah, and now they have like a tractor.
There's
just
like a
fucking it up
tractor
on your lawn.
There's like a Tonka truck on the lawn, like right.
Crazy.
Do they even know that they're going to be on Girl Historians, the podcast right now?
They don't even know.
They don't even know. They're just being, quite frankly, insane.
Yes. So if you hear that, that's kind of like texture to the world, right?
Yeah. It's just part of the ambiance.
Okay. So for George sleeping with Ringo's wife, to contextualize this, the Beatles love to fuck. Right?
It's the way that the Beatles fuck. It's like no one's ever...
You really wouldn't expect it because they have little mop tops and wives and little suits.
Yeah, but they fuck. And they fuck like they're sort of like the first people ever to discover sex.
Yes.
Like, it's...
Literally.
It's like
they're the first rock stars to like really fuck.
Yeah.
But they're not, but that's how they fuck.
And I'm sure they weren't like particular. You know,
no, they were always like 21.
Like I can't really see them necessarily being like good at sex.
Agree. No, you look at John Lennon and there's no way. You fuck John Lennon, it's mid. He comes immediately. Yeah. He smokes all your weed while talking about how he's Jesus and the best musician ever, and then leaves. Yeah, that's what that is. That's the only world in which you're.
That's what's
John
happening.
Lennon. Yeah. Okay.
That's all that's there to say about that.
Literally. So, and it's also like the 60s and 70s. So they kind of like, honestly, doing a lot of this Beatles research, I feel like we're seeing a lot of parallels to now.
Yeah.
Because like Polly is really in. And obviously Polly is like a state of being. I'm not talking down people who are genuinely polyamorous.
Yeah.
But like in the 60s and 70s, there was like the free love movement, maybe mainly in the 60s, but spilled over into the 70s, right? Of this idea of like, you know, the monogamy and oppressive relationship structures of our parents, they're not for us. And love is abundant and meant to be shared. So people were kind of like doing orgies and like, you know, swinging and stuff like that. And I think that also kind of spilled into like the Beatles would go on tour and be like, baby, love is free. Like, I'm going to obviously have sex with people on tour, but I love you.
I'm going to have sex with people on tour. There's nothing I can do about it, but I love you.
And that's free love.
It's and actually I have to do.
It's actually so pathological and like honestly psychotic of you to tell me not to fuck people.
To tell me not to fuck people because it's what I want to do.
Like that's kind of what's in the culture now of like people who maybe I do think a lot more people in the culture are polyamorous than we know. Like I think poly is kind of like the new bi in a good way, in that like more people are when everyone's like everyone's bisexual now. I'm like, yes, literally, because everyone is bisexual. Like let's get on with it. Yeah, you know. Where I think people are like when somebody's like, I always cheat. I'm like, well, you might be. Maybe not monogamous.
Yeah, maybe you're not monogamous.
But also, like, I feel like every single celebrity is poly now. You know what I mean? They're like in an open relationship, whatever.
It's like the ethical non-monogamy. Like even on the dating apps, like every other person is like ethical non-monogamy, and I'm like, I like that. Just you know, it just kind of makes you a little bit nervous about like
dating,
and also like, have you had the correct discussions? Like, not to police anyone, but
George slept with Ringo's wife. Okay. So the Beatles specifically say that like George was like a red-blooded man. That's like what Paul said in George's like that biography of that like documentary about George by Scorsese. Like he's like a red-blooded man. His like wife was at the end of his life was like he's just like he likes like girls like him and he likes girls. Like she kind of like alludes to like waiting for affairs over the course of their entire life, like just to be over. Like ethical non-monogamy is George Harrison's middle name. Yeah. Ethical questionable.
Ethical question mark.
But ethical non-monogamy?
Ethical non-monogamy?
Like
ethical?
Just loves to fuck. Like he just simply loves to fuck.
He's a red-blooded man.
He does not want to be like get like consent, but he doesn't want to be told no by partners. Like he doesn't want them to be like, don't sleep with other people. Yeah. He can't. He doesn't.
No, he's like, I'm simply a hot-blooded man.
I have to do what I have to do.
Yeah.
Also,
and I see that for him.
Literally,
he exudes sex.
He does exude like he does seem like he would love to eat pussy.
He seems like
not necessarily good at it.
Do you ever see someone and it's like, can you ever clock a high libido?
Yes,
because sometimes I feel like I can really clock a high libido. Because it's like whenever like, especially in comedy, if someone's talking about like fucking. I feel like I can read right away whether or not
that's like, real or not.
Lying,
yeah.
You know?
I think that's probably true.
There must be some science to that.
Well, it's probably like literally your animal body.
Right?
Being like, this guy will fuck.
This guy will fuck.
Or this girl will fuck.
This girl will fuck. And George Harrison.
Fucks.
Like
in a way that I'm like, Paul fucks, John does not really fuck. You know what I mean? Like you can figure it out. They all fuck, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if we're doing a
sliding
scale.
Yeah, we're sliding scale.
Yeah.
To fuck or not fuck.
Exactly. To fuck or not to fuck. That is the
question. Whether 'tis nobler in the eyes of man.
Were you at that improv rehearsal where I started quoting that?
Yeah.
And Ben, supposed to write, was like, absolutely not. Did not really. He was like, beyond to be or not to be. I don't know how this goes.
Don't know how that goes. No, epic.
So as we talked about before, also cocaine was cooking his mind at this time.
Which rocks.
Yeah, which is really awesome.
So things are going amazing for George Harrison right
Literally,
now.
Patty Boyd, who was his first wife, wrote in her, a lot of this comes from like her memoir, which actually sounds like she really does give tea in that, and I kind of want to read it.
Okay, so Sarah owned that, and it was in my apartment, and then she gave it away because she was like, it was so bad I could not read it.
Whoa.
She was like, but then that's, you know,
who knows?
Maybe that's Sarah's taste. Yeah. Who's to say?
Yeah. So she wrote that cocaine changed Harrison's character. She thinks he became heartless.
Oh my God.
And he told her that he needed to have concubines.
No.
He's a red-blooded man. He needs concubines.
Imagine if I just showed up one day and I was like, I've decided to start keeping concubines.
I'd be like, absolutely no.
Also, okay, what is the definition of concubines?
Well, he doesn't mean it like that.
But
There's
like,
no
it's
way.
like live-in women.
Yeah, a concubine,
sex.
I think, is kind of like a hostage, like, or like
right?
a
That's
slave
what I thought.
that you have sex with.
Then they like live in your house, and in exchange, have sex with you.
Yeah, and like their job is to have sex.
Yeah, like their job is sex.
Yes. I imagine he was just like, these women just come around and I have sex with them, but they don't mean anything, and he's titling them concubines.
Yeah, and he
did also offer to buy a child. So like, who knows?
Who's to say?
Who's to say?
I think he wanted concubines.
He wanted concubines.
Yeah, he wanted a harem.
He honestly did.
No, it's giving harem.
Maureen Starkey, also known as Mo Starkey, she went by Mo, iconic.
Mo Starkey.
Yeah, she's Ringo's wife at this time.
Ringo's
as well.
a little Starkey, but she was Mo Starkey.
I hate that.
Yeah, you came here for comedy.
This is a comedy podcast.
Sorry,
Don't you forget.
I'm fucking delivering.
Yes.
Don't get mad.
Yes. So they started dating when she was 16 and he was 22, like in the Liverpool days.
Rock on.
You're going to jail.
Prison.
Imagine being 22 and being like, 16 is actually the age for me.
Yeah, 16 rocks.
Men are fucking nuts, dude.
But 16 in 1960 was like 25.
Well, this is what I'm saying. It's not that bad in the 60s, but it's just like,
crazy.
It would simply never be me. Like, I don't understand this.
I'm like 16-year-olds with love and respect.
Are kind of 16 in a heavy way.
I'm like, you're 16, like, I feel like you're still kind of like a bit sticky.
Yes.
Like you've still got like a bit of like
there's a sheen.
There's a sheen,
film.
like a film.
I agree.
A film. You gotta scrub a dub.
Get that off.
Get that off. Get that sheen off.
So she became a hairdresser, and they got married in 1965 when she was 18 because he got her pregnant.
Awesome.
Rock on.
I was thinking about going to hairdressing school so then I could do my own hair, even though I already do my own hair. But
I kind of love that.
I kind of feel like it'd be an investment that paid for itself eventually.
Yeah, and you could do my hair.
And I could do your hair. I could do my friend's hair. I'm like, wouldn't that be kind of fun if I just went to hair school?
I think it'd be iconic.
Okay, I was thinking about it.
I think that'd be really awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
I probably won't, but I was
but it
researching
sounds fun.
Right? Wouldn't it be fun?
Yes. So Ringo has admitted he had obviously had problems with alcoholism to cheating on Mo a lot.
Ringo was cheating on Mo?
Well, they all cheated on their wives.
Okay, that checks out.
It's actually crazy.
It's crazy.
Not Linda. I don't think Paul really cheated on Linda.
No.
But Jane, who he was dating before Linda,
he was cheating.
cheating.
Ringo being able to get that much pussy is crazy to me. With love and respect to Ringo.
Yeah, but he was never... He's not Pete Best, respectfully.
No, he's not Pete Best.
He's no Pete Best.
He's no Pete Best.
Yes, exactly. And like with John or George, like Paul is cute and John and George like look kind of like hot busted. You know what I mean?
Hot and busted and like and like sick.
Yeah.
They're like twisted.
But then Ringo's like there. But I guess he's in like the biggest band in the world. And he is genuinely, people come at Ringo, a incredibly talented drummer.
Yes, yeah.
Like if you listen to Dear Prudence, which he's not on, you're like, this could have really rocked.
Yeah.
If you had like that drop beat.
Yeah. Wait, you wanted him to drum more in Dear Prudence?
Well, it's Paul in Dear Prudence.
Oh, it's Paul in Dear Prudence?
Yes, because he left.
Damn.
So I'm like...
Sucks ass.
Sucks ass.
Yeah, he could have really gone to town on Dear Prudence.
He really could have. Let him get in there.
Let him get into Prudence.
Literally.
Come on.
Okay, there's no good transition for this.
Awesome.
He also beat his wife a lot.
No,
like, Ringo.
What the fuck?
I know. Well,
Jesus.
I showed you that grid that Sarah sent me.
Oh yeah, of course.
So they all cheated on their wives. John Lennon beat his wife. And people keep saying like he didn't, and like he admitted to it. So like he did. I used to be cruel to my woman. I beat her and kept her apart from the things that she loved.
That's what I don't understand when people like are saying like John Lennon isn't a wife beater. It's like no, like he was, and he actively tried to become not a wife beater.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it makes his character, you know, reprehensible.
No, it's just a thing he did. It's good that he eventually
and he
his life
admitted
was
it
like,
and moved forward. Like he offered that information up for free. Yeah. It's not like it came out afterwards and he was like, no, it's like he was like, no, I did that and I'm not going to do it anymore.
That's what I'm saying.
Ringo also beat his wife.
That's horrible.
Which is crazy. George and Paul also cheated on their partners, but did not beat them.
Okay, good.
But George really cheated.
Yeah.
When George cheated, George cheated.
George was cheating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So because of this, Mo wanted to get back at Ringo for his infidelity.
Yeah.
And she went for the jugular on that one. And this is like this is a real like she's playing chess right now and Ringo is playing checkers, but Ringo's just cheating on her. And Mo Ringo's interesting, I'm gonna fuck George. It's actually so interesting you bring it up.
Yeah, because I'm gonna fuck George Harrison. And Ringo, playing checkers for Ringo is really hard.
Like he's already really trying hard to play checkers.
He's really trying hard to play checkers, and like it's
connect
rough.
four, so he keeps trying to connect four, and you're like, no, Ringo, remember we're playing checkers.
No, Ringo, babe, this is checkers.
This is checkers. It's not connect four.
You gotta.
And he keeps calling it like horizontal connect four.
Yeah, and he keeps like
trying to slide,
like sliding the pieces off the boards. It's like, no, Ringo, they got to stay there
because we're playing checkers.
We're playing checkers, and he's like, oh, I've got 4 in a row.
That means nothing, like, Ringo. Ringo, that means nothing. All of them are next to each other, actually. They're all in a row at the beginning because we're playing fucking checkers.
And also, like, you cannot put your pieces both on the white spots and the black spots.
Exactly.
You've got to stay
and by the way, while we're doing this, Maureen is having sex with Ringo.
Like,
with George.
right next to you. Like, you are so focused on the checkers board right now, even though you do not understand that she's having sex right next to your head.
Which is actually kind of crazy because, like, he is focused.
No, he's focused. He's like,
but he's just
trying really hard.
But
he's just like, he's wrong. That's rough.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll never forget when the podcast audience almost voted me Ringo. I'm not over that. That is crazy and that is mean. I'd literally rather be wife beater. Honestly,
it is nuts.
They said I was John, but Ringo was second. And this podcast has identified me as the capacity to be a wife beater.
Yeah, Ringo or John.
They're like, there's something dark in there.
No, there was something like it was really rough watching
the numbers.
I was like,
climb.
Yeah, watching the numbers was rough because I was like, surely I'll get Paul and Ringo and you'll get George and John.
Yeah.
And then I just got Paul and George and you got John and Ringo.
I don't think you're George, but I do think you're Paul.
I do think I'm Paul.
Yeah.
I think I'm Paul.
Because I think you're like
Paul
too much fun to be George. Like
yeah.
You would, if we went
George.
to India, you would not be there for the meditation. Like there's just simply no way.
Oh no, but I would do the meditation. I'd be into it, but I'd be there for like the history and the food.
Yeah. And the drugs. If you're the Beatles.
Drugs.
If you're the Beatles.
Yeah. I'd be doing the drugs.
You're kind of more John Lennon in that kind of way.
My like days will be planned out like day of fasting so I could do drugs and then day of just like Indian street food.
Yeah,
and whenever those videos of like Indian street food
with like
come
the
up,
big fucking ladles and
shit, fucking ladles, and people are just like, oh my God,
good.
like that's like unhygienic. And I'm like, first of all, this is cleaner than any kitchen that
right.
you've gotten
like,
food
go
from.
to the back of the kitchen.
Yeah, I'm like,
I have bad news.
Yeah, I have bad news for you about every restaurant that you love and love to go to. And I'm always like, that's like literally what I want to eat. And then I eat that. And then the next day I do drugs. And then I go to the Taj Mahal.
Literally. We do need to step up our street food game here.
We have no street food here.
Because
it's crazy.
In New York, you can just buy chicken nuggets on the street. And I don't eat meat, but like it would be a lot harder for me to not eat meat if I had the possibility of buying chicken nuggets on the street.
There's that one row of street food in Toronto. And other than that, we have like nothing. We have like some hot dogs, which rock.
And I do think like shawarma is massive. Like that is real.
I love shawarma.
But like we need more.
But even like downtown shawarma, like pales in comparison to like Scarborough shawarma is like, so much better.
Well, yes.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, that's okay.
I'm on my blah, blah, blah shit today.
Oh, I love that though.
Thanks. Sorry.
Okay. So also at this time, so this is happening like it's after the Beatles have kind of like broken up, but they're still friends. Ringo and George are still friends. Okay.
Yes.
Patty Boyd is also having a... Oh, you know what I just realized?
What?
So Patty Boyd is George's wife.
Yeah.
And she's having an emotional affair with Eric Clapton.
Oh my God.
But her name could be Patty Harrison. And Patty Harrison is the comedian.
Oh my God.
Isn't that kind of crazy?
That's kind of nuts. Wait. Conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theory. Patty Harrison is George Harrison's daughter.
Daughter.
Wow.
That wasn't even transphobic. I was like, I actually am just stupid.
Iconic sentence. That wasn't even transphobic. I'm just stupid.
No, it actually wasn't. It actually wasn't even transphobic. I'm literally just dumb.
I'm just literally dumb.
I'm actually
So it's actually
dumb.
fine.
It actually wasn't even transphobic. I'm just stupid.
I'm actually just stupid. Okay. So
and
Eric,
that's powerful.
Yes. So Eric Clapton, you might know him now from being a Nazi. being maybe the only single person in the entire world whose personality is worse sober than on drugs.
That's crazy. That's such a disappointing trajectory for Eric Clapton.
I know. And he has had a hard life, but he's become such a fucking Nazi white supremacist that like you can't even excuse it anymore. Because for a while I was like, well, his daughter like fell out a window. Like that is really sad.
That's rough.
Which, by the way, I learned about because with my guitar teacher when I was truly 10, he was like, you know what this song is about?
His daughter
Eric Clapton's daughter fell out a window.
Oh my God.
I know. So like that's hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
that's rough.
But he's crazy. Like he's a crook, nuts, insane. But at the time, he was just addicted to cocaine and heroin and drinking.
Okay.
And this addiction was worsened because he fell in love with George Harrison's wife, Patty Boyd. They had an emotional affair, and he felt really torn up about this because, first of all, Patty wouldn't leave George, and also he was really good friends with George. So he just felt so guilty, but he was in love with her. In 1970, he wrote Layla for Patty and showed it to her at a party.
Layla's for Patty?
Yeah.
That's cool. Layla's my mother's favorite song of all time.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, it's for Patty Boyd. And he showed it to her at a party that George didn't go to. And then he showed it to her and they were like kind of canoodling, whatever. George showed up and was like, where's Patty? Where's Patty? And then he finds them together.
Oh my God. And he's going.
George came over. This is from her biography. George came over and demanded, what's going on? To my horror, Eric said, I have to tell you, man, that I'm in love with your wife. And I wanted to die. George was furious. He turned to me and said, well, are you going with him or you're coming with me? And then she went home with Harrison.
Oh.
But they're having an affair. He like, it's an emotional affair that then eventually turns sexual. Like, it's not done there. Also, George is like, let's say, like, emotionally unavailable at this time. Like,
no way.
He's a red-blooded male.
He's a red-blooded.
He's too busy with his concubines.
He's busy with his he's really setting up a concubine system. They have benefits now.
Exactly. It's actually really beautiful.
Dental. Yeah.
Yes.
I'd be a concubine if I got dental.
I found out about this and I was like, more information. In 1973, Eric shows up at George's house and together they engaged in a 2-hour guitar battle over Patty. Just be like, wow.
Okay, so giving Scott Pilgrim there. Oh my God.
2 hours is so long.
It's a guitar battle. Give me a break. That's really funny though.
So Mo and George's affair happened sometime in 1974, 1975-ish. Everyone's on drugs. There's no direct timeline that I could find.
Yeah, fair enough.
Nobody knows what time it is. George is still with Patty. Okay. Chill out. George is still with Patty, but Patty's in love with Eric. They're engaging in an affair at this time. Because you recall the guitar duel happened just last year.
I wonder if they're playing the same song or different songs.
I feel like
what did that sound like?
I feel like they're just like riffing.
Imagine they're just doing scales.
This is the thing of like
do re mi.
What's the one that's like that everyone learns on the guitar, like Stairway to Heaven or whatever?
Oh yeah. What's the other one? The smoke on
yes,
the water.
They're just doing that. That's all they're doing over and over again. So at one point during this year, George, because cocaine has rotted his brain, is at dinner, him and Patty and Mo and Ringo, and just says to Ringo's face, like, I'm in love with your wife. And Ringo's like, yeah, I know, she's pretty great. Like, does not kind of get it, that it's like...
Wait, George said that to Ringo?
Yeah, and Ringo's like, I know, right?
I know, right? Me too.
Yeah, like, doesn't, like, get it.
Yeah.
So then he begins having an affair with Maureen, and Patty finds the two in bed together and tells Ringo that they're having an affair.
Oh my God.
Ringo's mad.
Yeah, and I get it.
And fair. Like, that is on George's part objectively insane to do. It doesn't matter if you're mad at Patty or whatever. Like, you can't do that.
It's got to be rough.
You can't do that. Like, you just can't do that,
Yeah, you got to
George.
draw a line somewhere. Yeah, that's too bad.
Like, on Maureen's part, it's bad, but you're like, okay, like...
Yeah.
But on George's part, it's bad.
No, it's not good.
John
is
rough. Furious that this happens. He's so mad at George.
Why is John involved?
Because they're friends. They only have 4 fucking friends.
He's just like mad. Yeah, that's fair.
George used to be friends with Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton fell in love with his wife.
Yeah, that's
so
rough.
Now it's, you know.
That's got to be.
John likens it to incest. And is like, you can't do that.
I
and actually,
get it.
you know, that, Onion headline that's like, heartbreaking, the worst man you know.
Is right.
Like,
has a point.
John is correct. This is crazy.
No, he's real.
So they don't talk for a long time, but Ringo and George reconnect. after Ringo reflects on him being a horrible husband to Maureen.
Okay.
Forgives.
So Ringo's like, they
reconnect as like adults.
Okay.
Because they're definitely the more mentally healthy out of John and Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Like that relationship can come back from that.
Yeah.
But John and Paul are not reconnecting. No. You know what I mean?
No.
Like they're like, you know what? We both were kind of bad, whatever. They reconnect.
Yeah.
Ringo spends a lot of time with George while George is dying. George provides a lot of support for Ringo when Ringo's daughter is dying, things like that.
Wow.
They're very close until the very end.
That's beautiful.
Yes. And Mo divorces Ringo in 1976.
Good.
Kind of a sad story a bit. She doesn't want to divorce him, drives a moped into a wall to try and commit suicide.
Oh my God.
But later she married the guy who owns the Hard Rock Hotel.
Great.
And had a good life. And then she died from leukemia at 46. But
okay. Well, that just kept getting worse. Hey, at least she had presumably free stays at the Hard Rock Hotel for
it is
all of her
baller
days.
to marry the guy to go from a Beatle to the guy who owns the Hard Rock Hotel. I'm like, you know, you're operating in the right circles, I feel like.
And some may say he's a Beatle of the people.
Definitely. He's the seventh Beatle.
Seventh Beatle, the guy who owns the Hard Rock Hotel.
Yeah, that's actually a fun fact.
Yeah. That's a good fact.
Okay, the messiest Beatles moment number 3. They all jerked off together all the time.
Wow.
So this was confirmed in a 2018 interview with GQ that Paul gave. 2018.
Oh my God.
And the story was about him and John Lennon jerking off as teens together. Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay, this is the quote. Okay, what it was over at John's house, it was just a group of us. And instead of getting roaring drunk and partying, I don't even know if we were staying over or anything. We were all just in these chairs and the lights were out and somebody started masturbating, so we all did. We were just Bridget Bardot, woo, and then everyone would thrash a bit more. And I think it was John sort of who would say Winston Churchill. Maybe it was a one-off or like a two-off. It wasn't a big thing. Why are you offering that up for free? Why are you telling GQ this in the year of our Lord 2018? Like, this is the thing people are like, we know too much about each other. I'm like, we've always known too much
about each other. Offering, that's...
And this is a story that, if you go back, has been told a lot in, like, by Beatles biographers of, like, they would, whether it would be before they were big or when they were in hotels, sometimes George and Ringo are involved, other times it's just John and Paul, but they would jerk off together.
Yeah.
And people would be, like, saying, like, hot girls, and then John would be the one that would be, like, Richard Nixon. And then everyone would be like, oh, like, trying to, like, kill everybody.
Oh, man.
Because this was before porn, so you just had to imagine beautiful women, which is insane.
Saying their names out loud is crazy. Like, again, I feel like that would
Megan
only
Fox.
ruin.
Megan Fox.
Mitch McConnell. Oh, man. I was almost there. Can I just say, though, this is a suspicion I've had about men. I feel like men
jerk off
together.
Well, I have a friend that I won't put him on blast, but he famously said in high school there was a jerk-off club where they would all go to the woods during, like, fucking lunch in middle school and just in a circle jerk off together. Like, this is a thing.
No, I feel like it's like, I know maybe 15% of our listenership is men, but, like, could you confirm whether or not
this
like,
is the thing
if you're listening to the podcast? Because, like, I'm convinced of it.
Because it's not really a woman thing. Like, it's not really a thing.
Because it's so much more kind of like, I feel like there is something about, like, men who have penises.
Yes.
It's really easy to whip out your penis in a way that, like, getting to your vagina, it takes a bit more meditation.
Holding a Totoro as you say this.
Just getting, it's like, it'd be weird if, like, we were all just kind of, like, splaying pants fully off. But
I also think, like, traditionally male sexuality is, like, a much more playful and celebrated thing.
And it's also kind of like, it's literally big dicking each other, being like, I'm going to take out my dick, you're going to take out your dick, and we're going to jerk off while saying,
it's not even erotic in the way that it would feel like masturbating with your friends with vaginas. I'm like, this is inherently erotic.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's so involved.
Yes.
So
anyways, this is not the end of this. There's other quotes. Let me read it.
Okay, great.
So Victor Spinetti, he acted in a lot of Beatles movies. He was a Welsh actor, said in 2006 in his autobiography, even in private, I knew that they hadn't become hard-bitten because if they were stuck together far away from home, the most daring thing they got up to was a wanking game. They'd lie there in the darkness like schoolboys. Always the lights off with these two. Also, in a dormitory, and the first to put the others off from coming was the winner. They'd start out and then John would say Madame de Gaulle, and if the others didn't fall out of bed laughing, he'd try Richard Milhouse Nixon. This is crazy. This is not even the craziest thing about this, okay? It's that John wrote a play about jerking off with Paul. It's a... What? Yes. It's called Four in Hand. You can look it up online. It's like a one act, like for kind of like a sketch. It's like a sketch for some kind of weird like comedy play thing. Okay. It is indiscernible. It is impossible to understand. It's called Four in Hand. Its working title was Liverpool Wank, but if you look up Four in Hand John Lennon, you can read it. It's insane. And it was part of a nude musical theatrical review called O Calcutta that premiered in 1969. And it was reported by the person who ran O Calcutta that Yoko Ono responded wholeheartedly to Liverpool Wank and coached John through writer's block as he wrote it, standing at his shoulder the way Paul McCartney used to once do.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It's not even a good play. Like, it's not even good.
So wait, what was the contents of it? Like,
just two guys it's jerking off.
He's just like, hey,
and then it's like, ha ha ha,
jerk off together.
Yes.
Ha. That's insane.
It's insane.
That's so funny though.
I know.
That's really
and that's
crazy.
Two sides of a coin. You're either writing a play about jerking off with your friend in 1969, or you're giving a quote about jerking off with your friend to GQ in 2018.
Wow.
You know, Paul McCartney and John Lennon matched each other's freak.
A little too much.
A little too much if you ask me.
That's crazy.
Okay.
Unsurprising, but insane.
Number 4 of the Beatles' messiest moments.
Okay.
John Lennon just took a totally straight holiday with the Beatles' gay manager, Brian Epstein. Just the two of them together. Just two guys.
Just two guys going and watching hockey.
Yeah. And I will say, this will come up a bit later, I wholeheartedly believe that John Lennon is bisexual. Like, you cannot convince me otherwise.
No.
He's bi.
Yeah, he is. Confirmed.
So take that into context while we read about this. So obviously we've talked about Brian Epstein before. He was the Beatles' manager. He was a gay man.
He's iconic.
John Lennon has never confirmed being queer because it was the 70s. Like, not whatever.
He was like, free love, baby.
Yeah, whatever. In a 2015 interview, Yoko said that John was bi. She said, John and I had a big talk about it, saying basically, also imagine your fucking wife airing this laundry for you in 2015.
I hope that if I were in John Lennon's situation, my wife, the experimental artist, goes and
tells everyone I'm bi.
Just 40 years later, is 40 like, no, bi confirmed. Bi confirmed.
He's bi. John and I had a big talk about it, saying basically all of us must be bisexual. And we were sort of in a situation and thinking we're not because of society. Barely a sentence.
Facts.
And so we
spit it.
So we are hiding the other side of ourselves, which is less acceptable. I think he had a desire to have sex with other men, but I think he was too inhibited. No, not inhibited. He said, I don't mind if there's an incredibly attractive guy. It's very difficult. They would have to be not just physically attractive, but mentally very advanced too. And you can't find people like that.
This is me on Hinge.
Literally.
I'd be fine with being with a guy. He's just got to be attractive, but also very mentally
advanced.
And
that's hard to find.
And that's hard to find.
And that's really, really, really actually kind of hard to find.
That's my Hinge bio.
Exactly. This is so crazy, man. And there are crazy photos of him and Yoko Ono and Andy Warhol where like Andy Warhol's like hand is like on John Lennon's dick through his pants.
That's amazing.
Like I'm like, there's no confirmed. I was like looking up like Yoko Ono, Andy Warhol, John Lennon threesome, John Lennon sex, nothing. But you look at these photos, look up these photos and tell me they're not fucking.
Yeah, tell me that's not crazy.
Like,
can you imagine?
Andy Warhol's the only person that would also get in on that and be like, yeah, let's fuck around with this tape deck for a while before we have sex.
You know what they for sure did? They for sure got like a big canvas and put paint on it and then had sex on top of it. That's horrible. That's for sure what they did.
Yeah.
You know what happened.
Yeah.
Where's that painting?
Let's see it. I'll buy it. Now, Brian Epstein was attracted to working class handsome guys, like a very rugged guy.
Love it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And everyone was like, oh, John Lennon is his type. And everyone was like, he's attracted to John Lennon. And also like, it was more kind of like, not like societally acceptable, but like there's lots of like kind of strange stories of like Brian Epstein being like, I want to fuck you or whatever. And like the guys being like, oh no. And he's like, you know what I mean? Like kind of like a bit like pushy.
Yeah.
In a strange way, but
I get it. I get it.
So in 1963, they took a totally platonic holiday to Barcelona together, just the two of them. It was just weeks after Cynthia gave birth to Julian, which is the most pathological, consistent John Lennon thing I've ever heard of, being like, you just chill out with this baby. I'm going to go to Barcelona with Brian Epstein. And she's like, why? And it's like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
In an interview in 1970, Lennon said of the vacation, I was on holiday with Brian Epstein in Spain, where the rumors went around that he and I were having a love affair. Well, it was almost a love affair, but not quite. It was never consummated, but it was a pretty intense relationship. It was my first experience with a homosexual that I was conscious was homosexual. He had admitted to it to me. We had a holiday there together because Cynthia was pregnant. She wasn't. She had given birth to the child at this point.
That's crazy.
Go off, John.
All right. Pop off, queen.
And I went to Spain, and there were lots of funny stories. We used to sit in cafes looking at boys, and I'd say, do you like that one? Do you like this one? I was rather enjoying the experience. In the book, John Lennon, My Life, which is like an official biography.
Yeah.
He said, what happened, John explained, is that Epi just kept on and on at me until one night I finally pulled me trousers down and said to him, oh, for Christ's sakes, Brian, just stick it up my fucking ass. And then he said to me, actually, John, I don't do that kind of thing. That's not what I like to do. Well, I said, what is it that you like to do then? He said, I'd really just like to touch you, John. And so I let him toss me off. That was it. End of story.
Oh my God.
So he just kind of jerked him off.
Rock on.
So there we go. That's the end of that one.
And let's go.
And let's go. So that's kind of the end of that.
Unsurprising.
Yeah.
Unsurprising.
Yeah, totally, he's not gay.
No, he's not gay.
He just went on a big vacation with the gay men and then let him fucking jerk him off a bunch.
So, like, who hasn't done that?
That's straight behavior.
That's straight. That's just, like, the process, baby girl.
Yes. Okay. Beatty. Oh, my God. Okay.
Beatty.
Okay, Beatty.
Okay, Beatty.
Okay. Beatles, messiest moment number 5.
Yes.
John Lennon's Lost Weekend, which we talked about. Yes, which we talked about in the Yoko Ono episode. It's basically an 18-month-long break from his relationship with Yoko Ono, in which he dated the couple's kind of joint assistant May Peng.
Which is crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So this was from summer 1973 to early 1975. It's 4 years into his marriage with Yoko. And Yoko basically almost like picked May Peng out, where she like kind of gave her blessing to the couple of being like, you guys can date. I need space. I want to work on my art.
Yeah.
She also said that she was feeling like it was like very oppressive to her energy because she was feeling hate all the time. Like she was getting so much blame for breaking up the Beatles, and that was like horrible, obviously.
Yeah.
So she just like needed a break from it all. So she like hooked him up with May Peng and let them kind of go off and do whatever they wanted.
And she really was like keeping tabs on it the whole time too.
They talked on the phone constantly.
Yeah. She was like ringing them on the phone.
Yes. So, and John during this period began drinking and doing drugs a lot. Mm-hmm. John Lennon and David Bowie also had a threesome during this time.
Rock on. Epic.
Bowie told the story to an viewer being like, there was a whore in the middle. And I think she was a she, not that either of us would have minded left, and we just kind of kept going. So
my God.
You know how you have a relationship? You have a threesome with a whore, and then she leaves, but you just kind of keep kissing your fucking friend.
Yeah.
And also famously, one of my favorite Bowie songs, John, I'm Only Dancing, is about John Lennon.
Oh, yeah.
Because John was like, you're not actually bi. And it's the song being like, I'm only dancing, like she turns me on, but I'm only dancing with the girl. Like I like men too, kind of. It's like a 1970s view of bisexuality.
That rocks.
Being like, no, I'm bi. I don't just like girls.
David Bowie was making the rounds.
Literally, he's like, fuck the 17-year-old or like what? No, 15-year-old.
Oh yeah. He also fucked Mick Jagger.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and
that's
then,
hot.
Yeah, and then David Bowie's wife at the time, Angela, walked in, saw them having sex, and then Mick Jagger wrote Angie. About like being like, Angie, don't you weep.
Don't worry about it. I didn't know that.
That's literally because she caught him having sex with David Bowie. So everyone thinks it's a love song, but no, it's him being like, sorry for
David Bowie. And David Bowie is so like ethereal that I really do believe he's the kind of like bisexual man that like a lot of kind of mainly bi-curious but straight men would really want to be with. Like he is very like alien like and effeminate and like effeminate, whatever. I get that.
David Bowie gets a passive forgiveness from me for anything weird he's done, unfortunately. I hate to admit that.
And not to be this person, and I don't have sex with 15-year-olds. It's bad.
No, don't do it.
But she's like, it was a great experience. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to challenge that because I think to challenge it would ruin your life.
Exactly. It's like some things just kind of need, some things we need to unpack and dissect and say they were wrong. Other things I feel like
we're like, well, yeah, don't do that. But I'm not going to be like, no, you actually were a victim if the person doesn't want to sit in that.
Exactly. It's like some things I feel like we just got to leave.
I would rather you feel good about your life than like come to the realization that you were actually like groomed and victimized as a child.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Because that's got to be rough.
I love
right
David
at the
Bowie.
Tail end of your life. Dude, I've been re-listening to Under Pressure a ton, which I never liked that song.
It's great.
Which is crazy until like a couple of years ago. And now I listen to it and I just cry.
It's one of those songs that I think is really, really good when you actually listen to it, but really fucking annoying when it's on the radio.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
It's just like that beginning part.
I know.
So annoying, but that bridge is
knowing what this world is about.
Yeah. But like that when he goes like, you love such an old-fashioned word.
It's so good.
Oh my God, when he says like, and love dares you to think about the people on the edge of the night.
Yeah.
It's so my God. It's
I know.
Like, fuck.
I do ride or die for Bowie. I know that's not an unpopular opinion in any way. He's one of the most respected musicians of all time, but I think that he's fucking great.
Sometimes you gotta say it. Sometimes you gotta say it.
Also, during the Lost Weekend was one of the only known times that him and Paul played music together after the Beatles broke up.
Whoa.
They were playing in like LA, and he was just like John was just like cutting tracks in like a music studio, and then Paul and Linda showed up, and then him and Paul just like jammed, and nothing really came of it, but they played music.
Wow.
They were planning a trip to New Orleans together and talked to May Pang about it. He was really excited about going to New Orleans with Paul. And then while this happened, this is when Yoko called him and was like, I found a hypnotherapist to help you quit smoking. Like, come home. And he came home and he didn't go on the trip with Paul.
Damn, that's rough.
I know. And he just left May Pang, which would truly drive me absolutely fucking insane.
No, May Pang, girls gotta have a freaking like.
Okay, now it's time for number 6, the final Messiest. Beatles moment.
I can't wait.
Also worth noting, the hypnotherapist that John went to quit smoking is also a conversion therapist.
Okay.
Just interesting to me.
That's so like for the gays?
Yes.
Oh no. He got conversion therapy.
He conversion therapied himself. The rare self-conversion therapy. We're going to talk about McLennan. Of course.
Oh my God.
The John Lennon, Paul McCartney ship, the belief that John Lennon and Paul McCartney were lovers, were in love with each other, had some kind of intense relationship.
And can I just say to preface this, I always thought this was a big joke until doing this mini Beatles season, and now I'm like, no,
me too. I was like,
real.
ha ha ha, and then I was reading, and I was like, oh, this happened.
Oh no, yeah, this is real.
Yeah, it's happened.
Real.
I only knew about it tangentially because if you listen to our live episode, your roommate Sarah Bennett,
yes,
did a whole kind of did a bit on it.
Yes,
it's very funny. Mm-hmm. We had to look at a lot of horrific fan art,
kind of iconic,
and I got a lot of information from this.
Yes.
Because Sarah sent me a TikTok all about McLennan, and the background music was Casual by Chapel Roan. I just think everyone should know that. So it's like them kind of like looking at each other. It's like, I fucked it in the bathroom. When it went to dinner. Is it casual? And it'd be like, is it casual when we went on a trip to Paris together?
Damn. Oh, I've seen this TikTok.
Yes, it's a great TikTok.
It's true.
I'm on my period, and like after finishing the script last night, like wept to Reese, being like, this is so sad. What happened to them? Like I cried.
Yeah.
About them, and it's devastating. And we will be crying by the end.
Okay, let's hear it.
So the narrative is that John and Paul were homoerotic in some way. Theories vary based on like, was it an inherently sexual relationship? Actually, very very romantic. Like, were they kind of dating? Was it like unsaid and very casual, or was it just kind of this like unsaid, like almost romantic bond, but never said? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no way to know because Paul's not Yoko. He's not going to air Dirty Laundry in 2015. He's not just going to drop the John Lennon is bi.
And Paul was bi. Hello.
Yes. In their early marriages, because those weren't like necessarily as serious and they were young, this relationship kind of continued to flourish. Also, their relationship always flourished whenever they were like artistically working really well together, right? Yeah. Because that was like, they were equals. They were honestly like soulmates on that level, regardless of what you think, if you think this relationship was romantic or not. Like, them creating music together is representative of like the fact that they are truly twin flame soulmates.
Yeah.
Which is also why you see in The Lost Weekend the only time that they play music together, which then is the chance for them to rebuild this relationship before John then returns back with Yoko. It's like
Yeah.
Very heartbreaking. Music is the way in which these two can communicate with each other,
For
right?
sure.
Paul got with Linda and pulled back, became a wife man, became serious. Paul, again, cheated on Jane, but didn't cheat on Linda, right? Because of this, John has incredibly intense abandonment issues. And this is not here to say, like, if you listen to the Beatles before they were Beatles episode, we detail John Lennon's childhood, and it's fucked up.
Yes.
And during this time, both John and Paul both lost their mothers and basically trauma bonded. Like, they are codependent. They are dependent upon each other for support. So seeing that support go away, John panicked. John got with Yoko. Yoko's constant presence slowed down their kind of like musical communication because they couldn't create in the same way because Yoko was in the studio. Yeah. Because John asked her to be, like, let's say.
Yeah. Not blaming her.
No.
But still happened.
Yeah. So then the communication breaks down, and then further and further and further, the relationship breaks down. Okay?
That's so hard.
So that's the narrative. I wrote here, I think there is some truth to this. I do truly believe that they are soulmates, and I believe whether or not the relationship was sexual, I don't necessarily think Paul was queer, but I think Paul loved John, but I think John was bisexual and didn't really know how to communicate that, which is why also like all of his actions as we go through the timeline are quite reactionary. Like he'll do a lot of stuff after Paul does it. And I think whether or not it's conscious or not, it's like this fear of being left by like maybe the only person he truly ever actually loved. And we'll say he loved Yoko as well. But do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's tragic.
Yes, it's very, very
Jesus.
sad. Cynthia Powell, John Lennon's first wife, we beat the shit out of, said that John never looked at anyone the way he looked at Paul. And if you look at photos that kind of accompany this as you go on MacMillan Tumblr, it's crazy. I will say, as a person who's kind of in the trenches as Larry Stylinson was happening on Tumblr, like I think with stuff like this, somebody could decide to ship us, take any screen cap of like us being like, Carley never looked at anyone. Like, looks are tough, but there's other proof. But there are some really sweet photos of like John being like really, really looking at Paul. Okay.
But it's also like, I will say this, where it's like, I think a lot of the times, like, I don't know the Larry Stylinson. It took me a moment to realize what you were talking about. But I do think that there is like a love between artistic connections that like is really powerful. And I'm not like here to be like Harry and Louis and the One Direction were rights too, but it's like there probably was something to that
and
as
that
well.
Speculation is I think what ultimately destroyed Louis and Harry's relationship. We can get into it, of like being a young man and like everyone being like, ha ha ha, you're gay and you're like 19. I think is really detrimental when you're developing your sexuality. And I think they stopped seeing each other because everyone was saying that they're fucking gay all the time. And they were uncomfortable with that fact. I think Harry is queer. I don't know for sure. I don't think he's talked about it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think...
I mean, he wears some crazy pants.
To be straight. You know what I mean? I'm like...
To be straight and to be wearing lederhosen the way he does,
it doesn't feel right.
It doesn't feel right.
You know, I think he is queer in some capacity.
Yeah.
But again, I think when you're growing up and your sexuality is developing, I can't speak for people who are straight because I'm not. But like you develop these relationships that I think a lot of relationships when I was growing up and in that headspace, like were platonic, but because I was like developing my brain and my sexuality, like they become really intense because like they're just intense relationships, period.
Yeah,
right?
Like I feel like a lot of relationships I would point to as being like very formatively proof of my like not being straight were completely platonic relationships. Honestly, probably all of the ones that were fundamental to my sexuality had no sexual involvement.
Because those are the people that you like allow yourself to become close to and you develop those feelings, right?
Exactly.
So that's kind of the overview. Now we're going to go through the timeline.
Okay.
I will say I've written here parasocial Olympics over here. Like I'm about to say some shit.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, I can't believe that she has a parasocial relationship with like John Lennon and Paul McCartney. Like lots of leaps here, but I do think I'm fucking right. And also reading MacMillan Tumblr is so funny because they'll say like so many sentences that you're like, yes, so true, so true. And then another sentence will be like, and I think we're underestimating Paul's just sexual appeal and the way that he drew John in with his manipulation or whatever. And you're like, okay,
girl,
wild sentence just happened.
Girl. Paul McCartney, girl. Yes. Love him, but please.
Yes. Yeah, let's chill.
Yeah.
So before, obviously there's lots of context if you want to listen to the Beatles before they were Beatles. And episode of our podcast, you get a little bit more context as to them as friends, which we're not really going to go through before they became the Beatles, whatever. But there's lots of like idealization. John was like middle class, not working class. So all of the Beatles were like, whoa.
Yes.
He knows some of his family members are like professors or whatever.
Yeah.
Liverpool and the Beatles specifically, very working class background. So really looked up to John because John was kind of rich for them.
John was also rich like through his aunt. Like he was raised by this almost like benefactor.
Yes. And Paul is just a cutie. You know what I mean?
He's a twink.
He's honestly
twink is what twink does.
Exactly. And like there is you look at Paul and you go, yep, I'm there, and I got it.
He's the type of person who like has the type of face and appeal where it's like, yeah, I would want to protect you.
Absolutely, like I'm there.
Like,
I get it.
Yeah, like I get it. Like you've got those like big eyes and the like little face,
which is I always think so funny. Like as somebody who like kind of like it consumes in a sociological sense a lot of like shipping culture online between men.
Yeah,
when it's done by young women, almost always like a heteronormative gender role will be forced on the situation of like who's the man, who's the woman.
Yeah.
And they'll oftentimes like just attribute like the little one to being like kind of like
the
twink
girl
and little and so need to be protected, and then the big one is being like the man. And more often than not, I think that like those roles are actually reversed when you think about the personalities of people, where like so much of this discourse is being like, and John just really wanted to protect Paul or whatever, and you're like, but John was a mess.
Yeah.
And Paul had his life together.
Paul
so, like,
had it really together. In
actuality, it's like John is this kind of like enigma genius. Like there's lots of quotes that Paul will give being like, any time in our life, whenever John was acting crazy, I always wanted to just excuse John's behavior because I was like, it's John.
Yeah.
You know, whereas
like it's John, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Whereas like Paul is this person that's like very controlled.
Yes.
So in actuality, I think those roles are reversed more in the way. I mean, obviously relationships, you can't put heteronormative gender roles onto queer relationships, but I think it's so funny, like when you read stuff clearly written by like teen girls, it's just interesting. Like I went on the Reddit for The Boyfriend, which is a Japanese queer reality show. It's the first gay men reality show in Japan, because it's great. It's on Netflix. You should watch it. And there's this couple that comes out of it, and watching it, I'm like, oh, it's so interesting. What's really beautiful about the show is it's called The Boyfriend, and it's like about couples, yes, but really it's like these gay men living in Japan where gay marriage isn't legalized, like finding kind of community and friends, the boyfriend with each other. And I was like, let's see this. And then everything is just shipping, and it's like them being like, oh my God, ooh, woo, blah, blah. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, you can tell when a relationship is written, or like facts are written by like adults, because like, the fact of the matter is 30-year-old women are carrying Tumblr shipping culture on their backs. And you can tell when it's a 30-year-old woman versus a 15-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Because a 15-year-old girl will be like, they actually never loved their wives. They actually never loved Yoko.
Yeah.
He didn't love Linda. It was actually denial. And I'm like, well, no, they did love their wives. Because actually the fact of adult life is you can love other people and still love another person. Like love is not finite in that way.
There's levels
like
to
that.
Love.
Yeah. So it's just interesting. Like half of this is written by, as with anything, older women, not older, but you know what I mean, like a woman, not a girl. And some of it is written by teenagers, and I'm like, well, no, girl, but thank you for compiling the most gifts I've needed to make my point here. Okay, so in 1961, John and Paul went on a best friends holiday to Paris for Paul's 21st birthday. We know John loves to do this, go on a homoerotic vacation somewhere in Europe.
And who doesn't?
Literally.
I love going on a homoerotic vacation.
If you look up photos from this time, it is so cute.
Aww.
It's boyfriend's vacation.
Yeah.
They go to the Eiffel Tower. They're in,
oh my God.
They're
getting a croissant.
Literally sitting in cafes, all these things. They
beautiful.
Hitchhiked around the. They wanted to have a gimmick as they were hitchhiking around Paris, so they brought boiler hats to hitchhike in, and it's just random, but
that's
very
really
cute.
Funny.
This is when they got the iconic mop. They came back. They got a haircut that one of their friends in Paris got. That was like the mop.
Oh yes.
And came back with the mop. Also, if you listen to the Wings song Cafe on the Left Bank, written in 1977, this is about this time, and you can read the lyrics. I read them as very kind of like gay yearning, but like I can read a menu that way. Like it's not, you know what I mean? Like I was like, work. It was like being in Paris, your eyes are on girls or whatever, and I was like, so you're gay.
Oh my God.
Let me see if I can actually just pull it up quickly because I do want to read it. The song is not for me, and I actually do fucking love Wings, but this one I was like,
you're looking at girls.
It's called the Left Bank, and I looked up West Bank, and
oh no,
yeah,
it's gotta be rough.
It wasn't what I wanted. Okay, this is the song, but I just want to read the lyrics. Cafe on the left bank, ordinary wine, touching all the girls with your eyes, tiny crowd of Frenchmen rounding a TV shop, watching Charles de Gaulle make a speech, dancing at midnight, sprawling to the car, continental breakfast in the bar, English-speaking people drinking German beer, talking far too loud for their ears. Just like stuff like that.
Oh my God.
Like, so you're gay.
So you're gay. So you're homo.
So you're homo, Paul. So you admit it that you're homo.
So you admit you're homo.
Okay, where was I? After this, at some point, we don't know, but it was eventually published in the book that Yoko published of John's writings, like skywriting or whatever, after he died. But it was written sometime after, after 1961 when they went on this trip. John wrote a short story about an unnamed narrator who's masculine having sex with a woman in Paris.
Oh my God.
But the woman's name is L'Ami Le Nitrate, which is poppers. Amyl nitrate is poppers. But
oh my God.
Le Nitrate.
That's crazy.
So you're gay. So
That's
you're doing
nuts. I'm sorry. Like, that's so insane.
So the proof is in the pudding.
So my wife.
You did poppers.
My wife poppers.
Like, okay, Charlie,
my wife
XCX,
named
chill out.
Poppers.
My wife is named
That's
Poppers.
crazy.
Isn't that insane?
Oh my God. No, that's nuts. I'm sorry.
I'm like, these girls are actually onto something. Let them cook.
Yeah.
In 1963, John wrote the lyrics to If I Fell, the song from Help, on the back of a Valentine's Day card because it like came to him in the moment. He's like, I have to write it down. But it was a Valentine's Day card he gave to Paul.
Oh my God.
Like, you know how you just give your best friend a Valentine's Day card and then write one of your love songs on the back?
Yeah. If I fell in love with... That's crazy.
Yep. In 1964, the Beatles taped a TV special called Around the Beatles. And like before they like played songs, they like did a little skit. These guys love to do a fucking skit.
No, they loved... All they wanted to be was sketch comedians.
But it's a skit.
You know what I mean?
Skit.
Like they're doing like it's
not sketch comedy. It's a camp skit.
Yeah.
I don't really understand. Like I was trying to read to understand like what it could possibly be, and I don't really understand it. But in the sketch, John and Paul play Pyramus and Thisbe, who are star-crossed lovers. Like, in like that Romeo and Juliet are based on.
Yes.
Also in the sketch, just to add a little flavor, George plays the moon and Ringo plays the lion, which is insane to me.
The moon and the lion is crazy. I'm sorry.
Yes.
That's really funny.
So they're play star-crossed lovers in this skit.
Yeah.
Okay. And then after that, John, who's a big cat lover.
Okay.
Because he's a bisexual man.
Of course.
Gets 2 cats, names them Pyramus and Thisbe, and then gives Pyramus to Paul as a gift.
Oh my God. Oh Jesus.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh my God. No, they're in love.
Yes. In May 1965, like John, like they were like getting drunk and somebody comes up and asks for their autograph and John drunkenly signs his name, John McCartney.
Oh my God.
So you're cooked.
You're cooked. You're done.
You know when you're signing your name with the last name of someone else?
Yeah. You're done.
You're done.
You know, you're freaking you're whipped.
Yes.
At that point.
While recording Revolution, like the Revolution tapes, like when they're recording that, and I think other stuff, like they're basically recording like interviews as they're recording the song Revolution and other stuff. Okay. Yoko says, I'm sure that if he had been a woman or something, he would have been a great threat. But there's something definitely very strong between me and John and Paul.
Oh my God. Okay. Let's fucking go.
Yeah. She also said later in John Lennon: The Life, I thought that John was cheating on me with Paul.
Okay.
There we go.
Awesome.
We have to talk about the trip to India.
Okay.
Because the trip to India and the aftermath of that is when Paul and John's relationship basically like splits forever.
Yeah.
Something happened. This is the beginning of the end.
Well, this is like the trip to India is so freaking like
it's pivotal. What I would pay
to be there,
the fly on the wall, to see what the hell happened.
What the hell happened? No, like so much went down on this damn trip.
I know,
and I feel like so many people in their life have had like a trip like this where it's like, well, it was all over after we went on that trip, and this was that trip.
Well, yes.
Well, yes.
Well, yes, Blair.
No comment.
And that's a story for another day. That's a story for a later season. So when
the 2-year anniversary.
The 2-year anniversary will tell you the story of the trip. February 1968, the Beatles go to Rishikesh, India. Want to say that's how it's pronounced?
Sounds right.
To do transcendental meditation with the scammy, creepy woman Maharishi.
Yes.
They eventually left because all of his female followers were like, "Hey, you keep like sexually assaulting us," and the Beatles were like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. Like, oh, we didn't know that.
They're like, I can excuse compulsive cheating, but I draw the line at sexual assault.
Yeah. And you know what? I get it. You know
Fair.
what? Like, not a horrible line.
And they don't have a lot of allegations for a band that was fucking their way across the 60s and 70s.
I do respect that. I don't know if that's just like a power thing, but like, yeah, are there like sexual assault allegations against the Beatles?
I don't really think so. Somebody's going to watch this and be like, actually
there is.
But whatever.
But nothing bad enough that we can pull it from memory.
No.
And we're pretty informed
it's
on the
not
allegations.
giving David Bowie having sex with a 15-year-old, which is in the hippocampus at any given moment.
Yeah. I feel like we're two people who are pretty informed on who has sexual assault allegations.
Well, definitely. I ruin people's lives when they're like, I love this show. And I'm like, oh. So, yeah, McLennan shippers think something happened on this trip because if you recall, Paul left early.
Yes, he did leave early.
After, of course, Ringo left after 10 days because he didn't like the food.
He had eaten through his beans.
He brought his beans.
You know, he was just farting like crazy. Like
they're like, Ringo, this can't be better than not eating the food. Ringo, have some rice.
How bad
just
could
plain
it be?
Rice.
Just plain rice,
Maybe
Ringo. Like,
naan.
how bad could it be? Maybe some naan. It's literally bread. It's just flat.
Literally bread. And he's like, no.
I've got my beans.
Yes. Because Ringo leaves after 10 days. And then Paul leaves a couple of days after that. And they say it's to attend to business concerns. But like, no.
No.
And people don't know what the hell happened. It could just be like an irrevocable. I'm learning about this
irrevocable.
Because irrevocable means it can be changed. But revocable means it can't be changed, right? Or like it's okay, just use it. We're going to use a different word.
I think it's irrevocable means you can't change it.
No, because this is what I thought. But it's actually not.
Oh, okay.
So I've been using it incorrect my whole life.
Okay.
People think something really bad happened on this trip.
Yeah.
Whether it be like John was doing the most drugs any human being had ever been doing at this point, basically.
And facts.
And just kind of into like doing drugs. And Paul's like, oh, no. Something happened with this Maharishi for sure.
Yeah.
And they're fighting. Because somebody who was like a biographer was working with the Beatles before they left for India and said when they came back from India, like vibes were just bad.
Oh god,
like really bad. He was like, "How was India?" And Paul like didn't want to talk about it at all. Like was just like, And John was like, "It was fine, except for that Maharishi and like annoying George. George being like, well, it wasn't that bad."
Yeah,
George, come on,
George. Let's be so real, George.
Yeah. But like John is like kind of poking George and making George upset.
Yeah.
And Paul's like shut down. Like something fucking happened. Do you know what I mean? So that comes back. They come back. John's in a foul mood. In May 1968, John and Paul go to New York to promote Apple. Okay. This is the first time, even though John met Linda the year before and I think was already engaged to Linda at this time, that John really saw Paul and Linda together. And he didn't care for it.
Oh, no.
They were in a car together. And everyone kind of says, especially in the beginning with Linda and Paul, like the connection was like actually uncomfortable to be around. Like it was a lot. It was palpable.
It was like a strong connection?
It was really strong. And it's like kind of the uncomfortable thing where you're like, oh, you know, when you like see two people hitting off and you're like, I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
But
like,
you're in
I'm
a
gonna
car.
Let you guys do this.
So you can't.
Oh, no, that's awful.
That kind of thing. But like they're just
awful.
really in love. John is really uncomfortable being around this.
Yeah.
They fly back to London. John has the famous episode where he has LSD for breakfast and then declares he's Jesus in Apple Studios. You know how you react when the love of your life is with the love of their life, and it's not you.
And we've all been there.
We've all been in the mindset of being like, my best friend, who I'm not in love with, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not in love with them.
I just don't like their girlfriend for no reason, and I'm going to take LSD for breakfast and declare myself Jesus at work.
Yeah, I've never done
my job.
I've never done anything even close to that.
No, I would never do that.
Not even like a similar situation almost to the word.
I would just simply never. There's something I would never do. It's not.
I just simply have never done. I've never done that. Never even thought of doing it. So
yes. The next day, John basically invites Yoko Ono over. Yoko, after they had met at that art gallery, had kind of been like pursuing him a bit, but like casually. It's not
I like people... that you said invites Yoko Ono, like combined
Yoko
Ono and Owner.
Honestly, guys, improv troupe name.
Yoko Ono.
Yeah.
Yoko Ono.
No, maybe it's not.
Yeah,
no. I'm hearing it.
Now you're hearing it.
It's nothing.
Sorry, interrupted. Continue.
So they meet at this, like, at Yoko's art gallery.
Yeah.
At her art show or whatever, exhibition. And she, like, every once in a while will be like, hey, John, like, how's it going? Like, they're kind of friends.
Yeah.
But he's not interested in her like that, or he is, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then after this, he's like, come over. They do the
like,
famous thing where they record a bunch of tape repeating things or whatever.
Tape loops.
And
then they
have
have sex at dawn.
Yes. Totally normal reaction to your best friend being
totally
in love
normal
with his
thing
girlfriend.
to do is just like kind of grasp with the first person who's available and be like, we're in love now.
Even though you're fully married with a child.
We're in love now.
You're married with a child, by the way.
You're married with a child, but you're not having the love affair.
No.
That your BFF is.
Exactly.
I caramba.
Yes. So then, this is when we see the kind of stuff of like, not even this, but also in Get Back and all these things of Yoko is at like every writing session now. Yoko and John are doing a lot of heroin.
Awesome.
And it's just really like, Paul is not happy because they're not like writing anymore.
Yeah.
And he feels that like John is upset and he feels kind of responsible for this relationship with Yoko. Because he's like, I pushed John away because surely he knows that John has crazy abandonment issues. It's not Paul's fault, but it's like, this is a reaction to John feeling left by Paul. And he's like, well, I'm having a love affair. I'm actually with Yoko now.
I'm actually with Yoko. I'm actually having this love. I'm actually doing
like
really well.
Really giving anxious and avoidant attachment styles in which Paul is avoidant and John is anxious, where Paul's like, okay, I'm just going to give him space because this is my fault. I gotta just chill. And John's like, because of Paul's pulling back, it's like confirming all of John's beliefs that he's being left by Paul, and then
for sure
behavior just continues. Again, parasocial, like the backflips of parasociality I'm doing right now are intense, but I am correct.
No, but you're right.
Yes.
For all intents and purposes, everything you say is true.
Is actually correct.
Is actually true.
Yes.
So
March 12th, 1969, Linda and Paul get married.
Okay.
2 days later, John and Yoko decide they need to get married.
That's crazy. And that's a normal thing to do. Once again, just totally normal thing to do.
And Yoko's like, okay. This is why she's going on in 2015 being like, he was bi. Actually, I didn't think at the time, but I've run back the facts.
And he's bi.
And he's bi.
And he's bi.
And he's bi.
I've really thought it over. And also we had a threesome with Andy Warhol on a large canvas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought back to the canvas and I'm like, actually, he's definitely bi. I didn't really remember the canvas.
I didn't really remember the threesomes where he was with a man.
Yes. So Yoko's divorce was finalized in February, so it recently just got finalized. If you recall, this is a really traumatic one where he like hid her daughter or whatever.
Which is crazy.
She's in the trenches.
No, she's not doing well.
They go to Paris to get married.
So they got married in Paris.
They couldn't get married in Paris.
Oh, they couldn't get married in Paris.
So then they went to, it's got a name. It's a English territory, a British territory to get married. This is what the Ballad of John and Yoko is about.
The Canary
Gibraltar
Islands.
Point.
Oh, Gibraltar Point.
And we've talked about this,
of course.
the chicest elopement in the entire world, even if it is because your best friend married the love of his life.
Yes. And you're depressed.
And you're depressed about it, but very
don't
chic.
worry.
Very, very chic.
Yeah.
Ballad of John and Yoko. I fucking love that song. I think that song is a banger. John also at some point made Paul listen to a tape of John and Yoko having sex.
Normal thing. Another normal thing to do for your best friend.
I know. You know that like George or Ringo was hearing this secondhand from Paul and they're like, oh my God.
What the fuck?
What?
As you do.
Yeah.
And that's normal.
That's
what people
actually
don't get
a
is
normal
that's
reaction.
normal.
It's actually a normal reaction.
It's normal.
So of the Lost Weekend, so this happens, the Beatles break up, whatever, right? So something has happened, they've been apart.
Yes.
May Pang says of the Lost Weekend, John, he was always saying, I wonder what Paul is doing. When John and I were together, and this is about a week or two before our relationship ended, I remember him saying, do you think I should write with Paul again? I said, absolutely. You should because you want to. The two of you as solo performers are good, but together you can't be beaten.
Wow.
Yeah.
Facts.
So there is like, it's not Yoko's fault. It's that thing where they say like John and Paul broke up the Beatles. Like,
yeah.
But there is like this, I think John really can replace Paul with Yoko in a way that he can't really replace Paul with other people. So like when he's with someone else, he feels that gap in a much greater way. Yeah. Right?
Absolutely.
And then Lennon said in that 1980 Playboy interview before he got slain.
Yeah.
It's like a love affair. This is about Paul. Mm-hmm. When you first meet, you can have the hots 24 hours a day for each other. But after 15 and 20 years, it's a different kind of sexual and intellectual relationship develops. It's still love, but it's different. So there's a kind of difference in creativity too. As in a love affair, two creative people can destroy themselves trying to recapture that youthful spirit.
Damn.
So that kind of thing. After John's death, Paul went on a German talk show in 1985 and said, this is about like him like kind of like being like the relationship with Paul and John and him. Okay. I mean, I think really what it was, really all that happened was that John fell in love with Yoko. And so with such a powerful alliance like that, it was difficult for him to still be seeing me. It was as if I was another girlfriend almost. Our relationship was a strong relationship, and if he were to start a new relationship, he had to put this other one away. And I understood that. I mean, I couldn't stand in the way of someone who'd fallen in love. You can't say, who's this? You really can't do that. If I was a girl, maybe I could go out but I mean, in this case, it's just sort of said, right? I mean, I didn't say anything, but I could see that this was the way it was going to go, and that Yoko would be very powerful for him. So we all had to get out of the way. I don't blame her, You can't blame her for being the object of his love.
Wow. That's crazy.
I know. So much of the thing of being like, well, if I was a girl, maybe I could.
Well, if I was a girl, maybe it could have been different, but it could have been above.
Exactly.
That's nuts.
And then Paul's sister said, like, after this was the week after John had died.
Yeah.
Okay. In the weeks after Lennon's death, Andy Peoples, who had interviewed John just prior to his death, was contacted by George Martin. I got a phone call from George, who I'd never met before, asking me to come round to Air Studios in London as Paul would like to meet you. This is what Peoples is saying. Forgive me, Paul, if I got this wrong, but what Paul wanted me to tell him was that John still loved him. And Paul, well, call me crazy, but he lost a wife. I'm certain I'm not implying anything of a carnal nature here, but to almost all intents and purposes, or porpoises, as John would have put it, what they had was a marriage. John and Paul were meant to meet, meant to create, and one of them was designed to sturm and drag the other's yin and yang.
Wow.
So, like, he was so... And there's also, like, a Paul quote being, like, actually, after his death, Yoko was able to confirm to me that John really loved me, which was really healing for me, because I really didn't think that he, like, loved or cared for me after that.
Yeah.
And there's, like, a horrific interview. I believe it's on Stephen Colbert. Which is crazy.
That's nuts. Stephen Colbert being dragged into this is insane.
But it's Paul being like, I still dream of John.
Oh my God.
And that's what kind of made me sob last night. I was
Jesus.
Like, you still dream of him. Like, it's very easy when talking about these people, their characters, because they are larger than life and like these massive, they're characters. Like, that's what they are.
Yeah.
But like, to Paul McCartney, this is his dead friend that never grew old.
Yeah.
Who like loved him, that he just sees in his dreams.
That's so sad, dude. That's actually devastating. Because it's also like, I always think about that where it's like, I think it must be such a particularly, which first of all, your life is so unrelatable because you're in the fucking Beatles. But then on top of that, like, you just had this trauma that like to everyone else in the world, it's this like character, but to you, it's your best friend.
Yeah, that's whole crazy thing where they're like, he didn't react normal when John died or whatever. And it's like, well, his best friend was
murdered,
shot
and killed. How would you react?
And he's on the street and they're like, what do you think? And you're like, oh, geez, like they're in shock.
Jeez,
you know
bummer.
What I mean?
You know, like,
maybe
what are you saying? Maybe you haven't processed it.
And I remember like I watched, there's like a Shaq documentary that he obviously created after Michael Jordan did The Last Dance. And all of these documentaries are crazy because they're executive producers, so it's just like vanity projects, but basketball players are inherently insane people, so they're entertaining. And Shaq and Kobe Bryant played on the Lakers together, and it's very like Shaq versus Kobe kind of mentality, because Kobe was like very fast and Shaq is the big man, right? And we can't get into what I think of Kobe Bryant, because obviously what happened to him is very, very tragic. He was a rapist. And also he gets deified because he died. Yeah. He was not, like, he was a good basketball player, but he's not as good as everybody thinks he's so good because he died. Yeah. Shaq is better stat for stat than Kobe. Period.
Yes. I say yes, like I know anything
like,
about basketball.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yes. Yeah.
But because Kobe died, and because Kobe plays in like a flashy kind of way that like other basketball players and athletes like, and Kobe was like a hard worker or whatever. Like big men aren't often like people love like Steph Curry or whatever, because like none of us are big enough to be basketball players. We like somebody who's smaller, who like kind of works hard. Yeah. Even though Shaq's a better basketball player. Yeah. Anyways, in that documentary, even though they weren't friends, Shaq and Kobe, when Kobe died, Shaq like has this thing where he says like, it's really painful because you have these relationships that are like defined. I'm saying it more eloquent than he is, but like they're defined by like this tension, right? And this competition. But you're kind of in the back of your head aware that like, you're like, oh, but when we're old, like we'll laugh about this. Yeah. But then that doesn't happen because this person dies.
And you just leave it.
And it just forever. Ends in the middle of the story that you've already pictured in your brain. Yeah. And I think that's like where so much of this pain comes from, is like, I'm sure that Paul and John were like, but we'll reconnect. Like, it'll take a while, but we'll get there. And then that just gets like cut short.
And they weren't like fully apart, but it was never back to like what it was, you know? Yeah. And that's what's so tragic about it. Man.
It's really sad.
That's so devastating.
I'm like a McLennan truther.
I think it's like, even if it's like, again, like whether or not they ever had sex, like I think that like intimate relationships are so like that they had an extremely intimate relationship no matter what. And it's like, at what point do you, like, where do you draw the line that like, oh, they were never in love because they never like shared a bed or like hooked up, you know what I mean?
You read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, right? Yeah. And I think like that book I really loved because it talks about like a creative relationship. Mm-hmm. And like they never like, I don't think they had sex, right? Like they weren't like romantically really involved, those two characters. But like to create with someone and to play with someone and to find somebody that you can like have that relationship with is so intimate that it's not really even similar to anything else. Like I don't know if I could, just because I think if you are a creative person, like I would find it really hard to have a romantic relationship with somebody that I haven't had that experience with. Yeah. Like I know a lot of people are like I do not fall in love with like people I don't know. Yeah. On that level. So in that brain, like in that way, my platonic relationships and my romantic relationships are just like two sides of the same coin. Yeah. Of being like, yes, obviously this isn't romantic, but like it's the same level of closeness regardless. Oh yeah. Because creating with someone is so, to find that person. Yeah.
Well, and you also think about like, you know, the inherent acts of sex is for creation, right? Like to make, you know, like crazy. Ultimately to make children. So it's like, yeah, if you have another relationship that's based in creation, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like there is like a pretty like stark parallel. And obviously like homosexual relationships aren't necessarily to like create, but it's still to create a family unit. Yes. Whereas like it's the exact same thing with a creative partner. Like I think it's, and also like if you think about like they met when they were kids, they went through so much together. You have this thing that like is totally not understandable at all. And then like whether or not you think that like if you're one of those people that are just like the Beatles suck, like sure, whatever, but like you cannot deny just like the pure impact,
the cultural impact, yes,
like the exceedingly large songbook that the Beatles left behind. Nuts. And that is mostly just the like stark collaboration between Lennon and McCartney.
Yes, it's inarguable, and it's crazy to think about. Like,
if you argue it, you're literally wasting your breath. I'm sorry, but like, what do you?
Yeah, you can say it's not for you, but you can't argue that it's not what music is today.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's you can't really argue that. You can argue it, but you'll be wrong. Like, then we'll just anything is arguable.
You'll get eaten alive. Like, I'm sorry, by anyone who knows anything.
And like to be able to create something like that is really intimate. Like, you can't create something like that without room for failure and understanding. And yes, talent, but also like to find people that are so talented and also nuts. Like you watch Get Back and you're like, oh, the two craziest people on planet Earth. Like George is getting shocked by a microphone and Ringo's trying to write Octopus's Garden. And then John is writing like Get Back. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, Paul's writing Get Back and then John comes in and like finishes Get Back. Like
it's crazy.
They're not happy with each other and yet the language is still there. Yeah. Like I remember that part from that documentary because it's like, John is late. Paul starts working on it. Yeah. And then John comes in and can immediately finish it.
Yep. They have a vocabulary. And it's like you can't just walk into something like that. Well,
should we do our Let's Make This Tragedy About Us?
I'm fucking devastated now.
I know. Well, we should do what you said as well. And we should say we should vote which is the messiest moment. Mm-hmm. And then let's do the Let's make this tragedy about us. My other question is then tag yourself.
Tag yourself? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think the messiest moment, I do think it's got to be George sleeping with Ringo's wife.
No, George sleeping with Ringo's wife is just
messy
like,
for
that's
what?
Textbook messy. That's like me being like, how do I stir up shit right now? Like, how do I like?
And Ringo?
Like Ringo's just like, oh no, my beans.
I like to be under the sea with an octopus.
Like, oh George, stop, George, stop. Yeah. No, that's easily nuts. The messiest. There's nothing there.
It's just so messy for what? It's undeserved. Yeah. Like on Maureen's side, yes, it's deserved for Ringo, but that's just George taking shots at Ringo for no goddamn reason. Like, George, you made it clear you don't care if the man is bad. Like, you are friends with Eric Clapton. You're like, the Maharishi, not that bad. He just rapes women. Like, you don't care that Ringo hits his wife.
No.
This is something else entirely. This is
he's
crazy
he's
shit.
just like, this. It's time
for me to destroy Ringo's life.
It's time for me to stir the damn pot.
I'm kind of bored.
Let's make a soup, baby.
Yes.
Let's make a fucking soup. Tag yourself. I'm for sure, absolutely. John Lennon when Paul McCartney gets married and I get married 2 days later. That's absolutely me. That's absolutely me. The way that is like
textbook.
It's textbook.
Yeah.
It's literally, I'm sorry. I'm such a fucking... I have no original experiences in my entire life.
Everything you've experienced
is just like...
is John Lennon.
My best friend that I'm secretly in love with has a partner now. Oh, I'm actually in love too. And we're getting married.
We should get married.
And I'm actually in love now and we're getting married and actually my life is perfect and I have all these things going for me.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to tag myself. Yeah. Go along with this walk. Go on this walk with me.
Okay.
George Harrison joking about buying a child. Because I could see if I had like a really long and illustrious career, it's marred by just like a joke I think is funny that's objectively offensive.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to challenge me on it, where I'm like, no, I was joking.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, but you shouldn't have joked about it to begin with. And I'm like, right, but it was just, I wasn't going to like, it wasn't about sex. I just thought it'd be funny to insinuate I was going to buy a child.
No, this is like, and this is kind of an off-kilter story, but there's this woman, and I won't say where she works or what she does, but she was a prominent member of a community that I was once a part of.
Yes.
And she once said that the sexiest thing she ever saw in her life, mind you, she's like 40 or 50. She was like, the sexiest thing I ever saw in my life was I went to a high school recently and there were these teen boys doing backflips and it was so sexy. And I heard this story so many times before I ever met her. And I was like, she has like an illustrious career.
Yeah.
The only thing I think of when I hear of her now is
teen boys doing backflips.
Is just like, well, she thinks that teen boys doing backflips is the sexiest thing she's ever seen in her 50 years on planet Earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't get past that, quite frankly.
No, it's impossible. And I'll also tag myself, which we kind of talked about, as seeing your best friend be happy word you're getting replaced doing acid and then announcing yourself as Jesus at your job.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I have literally
like my
done
version of yes. Of being
anytime I'm like ego tripping, it's because, and I'm prone to.
You are prone to an ego trip, but that's fine. I actually think it's really,
but
I actually think it's kind of beautiful.
But like a lot of the times, it's because something has happened, yes. And my brain just goes like, well, that's actually crazy because I'm actually like probably I'm actually probably like I'm really gifted, and actually probably no one's brain works like mine.
Yeah.
And it's because like I've been
and I relate to that pathology. Like I really do relate to it of being like, regardless of, I have those fears even when people say like, oh, I'm gonna move. My friends say I'm gonna move or whatever.
It's like, well, I'm actually moving farther and earlier.
Yeah, I'm moving actually there before, so you're actually following me.
Yeah, I'm actually moving there before there, and I'm actually moving, and I'm moving now, and I'm actually
with Yoko Ono.
Actually working on it. I actually probably already am there, and I know so many people who live there, and they're all welcoming me into the community.
Yes.
And all someone said is like, I might do a semester abroad in Germany.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's so interesting because I actually am doing a semester abroad in Australia.
So you hate me. Yeah. You hate me. You're running away from me. You're going to leave me. You're going to replace me.
So you're
like
leaving,
I have that in my brain of being like,
absolutely.
I'm going to be replaced with friends, and I'm like, for no reason. So I could see myself picturing that and being like, I'm going to do a lot of acid.
I'm going to do a lot of acid. I'm going to do a lot of drugs right now.
We're fine. Another thing, because after the last episode with Reese, somebody commented on the Instagram being like, yo, Carley, or like Reese Yoko Ono his way into the podcast. In parentheses, Carley forced him to be there.
Yep.
And so now we always joke, but I'm like, this is like, I'm John Lennon in this sense where it's like, if I could do the social and just have Reese sit in a chair and hold my hand and like scroll on his phone, I would do that. No, I would do that. Like,
and Reese would love that.
Like, if I lacked the self-awareness or just felt like ego trip to the point where I was like, what I want is the most important.
Yeah.
I would just bring him in everywhere, regardless of appropriateness.
Just tote him around.
Literally.
What are you gonna do? Fucking tote the guy around.
So I do see that of being like,
you're
like, so the podcast, like, it doesn't always work up. Reese is just like here. And I'm like, he's my collaborator.
Yeah, it's actually funny because he's here and
how's
he's
your
sick
wife,
right
by
now.
The way?
Yeah. How's your fucking wife?
How's your
fucking wife, idiot? How's your fucking wife, idiot?
Listen to this tape of me and Reese having sex. So that's that.
Yeah. I will say I'm really excited for the Beatles biopic.
I'm so excited. The 4.
I know. Which I don't understand how they're going to do that now, knowing how intertwined all these stories are.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
Damn, I am stoked.
I know. It's that Iowa Debris, like,
I can't wait.
Comment where it's like, I'm seated. I'm so seated. The theater staff are scared. They say it's not August yet, but I don't care because I'm so seated.
Because I'm seated. When does that come out? When did those?
Next year. They haven't started filming yet.
It's crazy it's coming out next year and they haven't started filming yet.
Well, maybe it's coming out later than that.
I can't wait.
I'm so excited.
I'm just so much of a bigger Beatles fan now.
Me too.
I'm like, I can't believe how much this just like ruined my brain.
Beatles biopic when?
Beatles biopic when? Now.
Oh, 2027.
Oh man, that's so long. Hey, we still have a chance to get cast in it.
I know.
Hey, Beatles.
Who do you want to be cast as?
Literally anyone. I'll be anyone.
I know. I'm like, who do I look like? That's what I got to figure out.
Yeah.
I'm not getting the Patty Boyd. That's not happening.
I'm also like all messed up. Sometimes my timelines get messed up. I'm like, I don't know who I could play.
No, I have no idea.
Maybe just like woman in Liverpool. I would love that. Or woman on.
Being like, Paul or John, why'd you have to get married? Like,
why'd you have to get married? Why'd you have to get married,
Somebody
John?
knows the casting team.
Someone knows the casting team. Send them our way.
Cameo. I would love to be a cameo. A girl pissing herself at Beatles concert.
Yeah, a girl pissing on the floor. I want to be a girl pissing at the floor in Beatles concert. Please, there's 4 chances for this to happen.
That's true.
Right?
Okay.
Well, shall we wrap it up then?
Yeah, we're done. That's the Beatles.
That's mess. The Beatles. And soon we will announce a new season.
Yeah. Keep your eyes
and your
peeled,
ears,
motherfucker.
And your heads on. And your ears peeled. Carly's so mad at me.
It was very sneaky. I was good.
Now that you said it sneaky.
We'll cut that part out. Just cut that out.
Cut it out being sneaky.
Yeah. I was so happy that we got to do the Beatles.
Me
Say
too.
goodbye to the Beatles. That was lovely.
Well, goodbye, Beatles. And goodbye, listeners.
You know, don't know why do you say goodbye?
When I go, why say goodbye? No, say hello.
Hello. Don't know why you say goodbye. I say hello. And I can't think of a better way to end than this.
And hello. I don't know why you say goodbye. I say hello.
This podcast has been brought to you by the Sonar Network.